Eagles. Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen, as we inch closer to the Wildcard playoff matchup, everybody. The regular season is officially in the rear view. I want you all to stop and think about that for a second. That went by pretty quick. The Eagles finish up 11-6 and now ready to rock in the postseason with the number 3 seed, and they will host the San Francisco 49ers for playoff game number 1 this year. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Tuesday morning, my friend, as we inch closer to the most meaningful football yet this year?
Yeah, as well as can be. Trying to march through this stupid cold that won't go away, but it's playoff week, so no time to throttle down in playoff week. 5 consecutive years for the Philadelphia Eagles, which is pretty impressive if you see all the new teams in the playoffs. It ain't easy to go back and back and back and back and back.
Yeah, no doubt about it, John. This is a fifth year in a row. Yeah, they've made the playoffs with this regime. John, Nick Sirianni spoke yesterday. We'll get into that. We had Black Monday in the NFL yesterday. I think there are 6 teams, if I'm not mistaken, looking for a new head coach. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then I also want to do end of regular season. We got to give out some grades here for the regular season. And then in hour number 2, we'll talk to Chris Franklin. So I want to thank and welcome everybody for being here this morning. All right, get fired up, Eagles fans. This is where the bread gets buttered. All right, regular season records are nice, and congratulations to the Seahawks for getting to 14-3. I think this team is set on bigger goals than that, and we will see what they're able to accomplish here in the postseason. John, with Nick Sirianni speaking yesterday, any takeaways from Nick worth sharing to the people, and where are we going into this playoff game in terms of health with this team?
Pretty healthy, as healthy as you could potentially be at this stage of the year, which is part of the reason. You know, they've had this great run, just comparatively speaking. Obviously, this is the NFL. Everybody has injuries, and the Eagles have had their share. But, the most serious one as far as longevity, probably Lane Johnson, but he's set to be back by all accounts. So, more caution than anything else there. Maybe some other reasons, but it's just, he's expected to play. Then you look at what they did in week 18, everybody bandies back and forth. I prefer to have that second guaranteed home game if everything stays chalk. I think that's the right way to go about it. So I have my differing viewpoints on how they handle things, but the bottom line is they're so much healthier. Look at this week. I mean, I sit and I'm looking at people and go, this is a difficult matchup. This team, Eric Kendricks is playing linebacker. He's got 46 snaps on the year. The other linebackers got 40-something snaps. They are devastated on the defensive side of the football. They have nobody on the defensive side of the football. Their front 7 is basically unrecognizable from what it was supposed to be on the defensive side of the football. You can't beat this team, man. You don't deserve anything. You deserve the exit. You deserve all the scapegoats. You deserve everything. There couldn't have been a better matchup. Green Bay would have been much tougher than this team coming in. They are devastated on the defensive side of the football. So, and this is a year-long, a multi-year thing for the Eagles about being healthier almost each and every week. And it's so difficult to gauge what they're doing, what they're not doing, why they're healthy, why teams like the 49ers seem to always be injured. The Detroit Lions seem to always be injured. But there's something to it. There's got to be something to it. And I look at what's set to show up here, and I'm like, whew. That's why Kyle Shanahan looked like somebody kicked his dog after he lost to Seattle. And I don't, I think it was that in a lot of ways they needed that win so badly, not for just obvious the number one seed, but just the rest and try to get some guys somewhat healthy. And they didn't get it. And here they got to come to Philadelphia. I mean, whew, they are, if this were 2008, I'd say Eric Kendricks is a pretty good player. I'm exaggerating. I'm going way too far back. 2018. Say that's a pretty good player. He was. This reminds me of the Dolphins with Vic Fangio a couple years ago when they made the playoffs and they had a poor defensive performance because they lost Jalen Phillips and they lost Andrew Van Ginkel and they lost another all at once, right at the end of the season. And they're signing guys off the street to play in the playoffs. That's what this reminds me of. So, I don't think the first round matchup could have worked out any better for the Philadelphia Eagles. If you were going to rate the potential opponents, by far, this is the one you wanted. And I get I already see, people are fearful of Kyle Shanahan. And nobody respects Kyle Shanahan more than me, but he doesn't have any defensive players, guys.
Well, what's your confidence level or what's your thought process on the Eagles offense being able to take advantage of that? John, they haven't been great this year, the Eagles offense, and they haven't really taken advantage many moments. I mean, I understand they don't have great defensive players, but many people will listen to you and say, well, what is John, what does John think this offense is going to do? They haven't done a whole lot this year, and I think that's a fair. Now I'm with you. I have great confidence that the Eagles will win this football game. At least they should win this football game. And I'll echo your sentiment. If you can't win this game, you don't deserve to win shit anyway. But that offense has struggled this year, John, and I do wonder what capability they have to take advantage of a depleted 49ers defense, because on the other side of the ball, the 49ers do have a pretty good offense.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the potential. I think the only potential for San Francisco is to score a bunch of points, to put it mildly. I've said it a lot. The Eagles' offense is what it is. It's risk averse. I think it's way overblown that it's terrible contextually. There's no evidence of that. Again, if you want to go, the best evidence is traditional stats, which are the most meaningless, and that's total offense, yards per game. The advanced numbers say they're above average compared to the rest of the league. They haven't had a bunch of they haven't played poorly for 17 games in 18 consecutive weeks. I think that's overblown. Whether it's EPA at 12 or 13, whatever it is, whether it's film, let's see where we'll look right over what they are offensively. 11th by PFF. It's 32 teams in this league. I just think the narratives are absurd when you compare it. Now, when you compare it to the expectation, that's where it comes down to. Like, everybody in this city thinks this should be one of the greatest offenses of all time. That's what they think.
Should it be better than it is? I mean, forget the city's expectations. What about your expectations? And by the way, I understand PFF's grade, but PFF's grade is a little different, right? I mean, because they're grading each play individually, and obviously the Eagles, to me, it's like they have great drives, but then there's also the extreme on the other side where if it's not great, it's as abysmal as it gets, and maybe the slant there is not, appropriate for what their output has been on offense.
Well, you can look at it both ways. I mean, 29.2% of the time they're 3 and out, which is the worst in football. That leaves 70% of the other time where they're one of the best teams in football. So it depends how you look at it. Now, is it frustrating when they're going 3 and out? Obviously. Should they be better? Obviously. But the assumption, there's 2 levels to the assumption. Should they be better? Yes. Should they be one of the best offenses of all time? No. There's no evidence that ever existed other than in people's minds. So there's 2 layers to it. But overall, just in the context of the league, and again, you can use EPA, you can use DVOA, you can use PFF, you can use whatever you want. Pick whatever you want. At worst, they're top half of the league of 32 teams. Should they be better? Yes. Would they be better if they were less risk averse? Probably. Maybe not. To me, the biggest issue. To me, the biggest issue remains the lack of the running game. That to me is the only difference really between this year's team and last year's team.
Right.
And I don't think it's getting fixed because I don't think the offensive line is playing nearly as well, nor do I think they're going to be playing nearly as well. So you have to go about things in a different way, and it's going to be more grinded out and more things, and you better not turn the football over. Now, I don't think it's going to matter this week, but at some point in the playoffs, you're going to be challenged significantly, and you're going to have to play a clean game, and all that stuff's going to have to come into it because I don't think they're flipping a switch. However, I do think that Jalen Hurts will turn it up a bit as far as getting involved with his legs, and I think that will improve things dramatically. And that'll take a bunch of those 3 and outs off the table because he'll be extending plays and getting first downs with his legs. I think that's going to happen till you see it.
Right. I assume Jalen's going to go the extra mile here in this game, obviously too. I mean, I'm thinking.
So I think right away that's going to improve the 3 and out situation. But yeah, I mean, again, 30% of the time they've been awful. 70% of the time they've been a top 10 efficiency offense. Is it weird? Yeah, it's fucking weird. Usually doesn't happen that way.
And it does result in lower outputs, though. I mean, if you look at their last, 8 games, I mean, they don't score that many points, John. They really don't. I think the 2 outliers would be the Raiders and the Commanders game where they put up.
No, but again, when you talk about games have personality, the question is, can they score points if forced to score points? We've been talking about this for years. Can they win a shootout?
Yeah, right.
Well, if you don't have to win a shootout, you saw the Seattle-San Francisco. Look, before the Seattle-San Francisco game, there's a lot of talk about, well, how do you stop this offense? How do you stop this offense? Well, Seattle did. Now, San Francisco, with that terrible defense, also didn't give up a lot of points. That's the personality of the fucking game, man. One team's trying to run the ball. One team knows the other team can't do anything defensively. And they're just trying to drain clock and get out of there with a win. Personality of game is a big thing. It really is. So when the Eagles are playing effectively defensively, they get more risk averse offensively.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, what can the defense do? I mean, because I don't think the Eagles have won a game this year versus a competent opponent when they score over 25 points, 24 points. I know they beat
how many teams are scoring 25 points against this defense?
Well, that's the thing, though. But they're a defensive team. I mean, if there is a team that's capable, maybe it is the 49. Maybe it's not. But they've been a pretty good offense this year, and they do have Kyle Shanahan. I mean, they beat the Packers. Packers only had 7. They beat the Lions.
One thing you can rest assured is Kyle ain't playing. The designs will be great, but he ain't playing. So players got to do it. Now, it'll help to get Trent Williams back. My presumption is, and there's no guarantee, but my presumption is from what Kyle said that, he potentially could have played Sunday. That indicates to me, well, he damn well better be out there in the playoffs. So that'll help dramatically. It's one of the best left tackles of all time. Don't know where Ricky Pearsall is. Said the same thing, so I assume he's going to give it a go. That'll help them. So they'll be better. They should be better on the offensive side of the ball from a personnel standpoint. Still, the weakness is their offensive line, I would say, outside of Trent, and their other tackles pretty good as well. So the interior, and that really matches up well with the Eagles' strength. You know, Jalen Carter, healthier, looked great last time he was out there. Moro Jomo, Jordan Davis having a great year. That's the strength of the Eagles' defense. And the weakness of the San Francisco offensive line is the interior. So that shapes up well. They're not as explosive as they were a couple years ago when they had big-time receivers. But Kittle and McCaffrey, they're going to make some plays. I mean, they're just really good players. And they're going to make some plays, but Vic's going to make them be really, really patient. And I don't know if Brock Purdy's that type of quarterback who's really, really patient.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who can really make the throws, but if you get him off his spot, he's prone to have some turnovers. So we'll see what they're able to do in that front. You know, John, I have a little bit more concern than you. I feel good about the game, but, you know, I do look at some of the Eagles games. I mean, Cowboys scored 24, won the game. Bears scored 24, won the game. Chargers scored 22, won the game. Bills lost. They only put up 12 points. Commanders in week 18, which didn't really matter, scored 24. They win the game. Eagles are going to have to score points, I think, in this game. Now, maybe the defense could hold them to under, 13, 14 points. I mean, they've been giving up 14 and a half since week 10, so you feel pretty good about that. But if for whatever reason the 49ers are able to score points, my question will be, is the offense able to put up the points that they need to win the football game? Because they've struggled with this all year. I know you give the ratings, but you know, the eye test tells me that offense has to be better. And, you know, if there is a time to do it, it's going to be here in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that they have to clean up the 3 and outs. And I think if they clean up the 3 and outs, they clean up the offensive problems. And if they clean up the running game, they clean up the 3 and outs.
Yeah, right.
Easier said than done. But I think it's easier than people speculate as well, because I don't think it is this dramatic, you know, broken system or the other thing that a lot of people jump to. Because again, it's like, and I'm not picking on you, but you're like, Kyle's not stepping out. He's stepping out on the field. He's not stepping up between the lines. Kevin Petullo's not stepping through the lines, guys.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, obviously.
Vic Fangio isn't either. I mean, you have the matchup of the best defensive mind, in my opinion, in the NFL versus the best offensive mind. But the reality is Jalen Carter and Christian McCaffrey are still more important. You know, how are they playing? How are they performing? And that's what it's about first and foremost. And the Eagles have a huge advantage from a personnel standpoint, which is, you know, I'd be having a different conversation if they were healthier on defense. Then I'd say, well, this is a tough matchup, because, you know, Fred's out there. If Nick Bosa's out there, their linebackers, there are other linebackers out there.
Yeah, they have no linebackers. Like no,
they have no front. Their defensive front is just devastated.
Well, John, this is the game within the game where I think it's going to come down to. All right. The 49ers are the number 1 third down offense in pro football. So that's where I think, and that's obviously true for every game, but I think even more so in this game, it's going to come down to that third down. Like, can the Eagles defense win on third down, and the 49ers, will they win on third down on offense? Because if they can keep their offense on the field, this becomes a 49ers advantage for them for the game. So Eagles defense has to capitalize, take advantage. And the other thing, the 49ers are also very good in the red zone too, John. Like the Eagles. Eagles are number 1. 49ers are number 4. They were number 2 going into the week last week and obviously dropped a little bit after their performance on Saturday night. But they're a great red zone offense, and they're a great third down offense, best in football.
Yeah, generally they're a great offense.
Yeah, they're top 10 in most metrics.
They're very good offensively. Nobody's taken that away. Although I think they've been better in the past, as I said, when they had better receivers. I think, at the height of having, whether you think Ricky Pearsall is their number 1 receiver or Juwan Jennings, it isn't what it was by a stretch. Now, McCaffrey's having a phenomenal year. Kittle's just a beast, as he always is. No signs of slowing down from him.
Yeah.
But the Eagles are
32. John, he plays like he's 28, dude. He's an impressive player. I know he gets hurt a lot, but boy, when he's on there, when he's on the field, he's a good player.
It's been a while. He's been good for a long time because I remember getting a lot of shit that when Zach Ertz had his big reception season, I said, the best tight end in football is George Kittle. That's how long it's been. And boy, did people. I never got apologies for that one either. But
John, what do you think the key is for this defense, man? I think it's pretty simple. Take away Christian McCaffrey. Now, McKittle's out there too, but you look at what the Seahawks defense was able to do to McCaffrey. I think he had 8 carries for like 20-something yards, and then he only had 30 yards in the air, or 34 yards in the air, whatever it was. That, to me, is the recipe. I mean, if you take away Christian McCaffrey, they don't have much else. Their receiving core is not great. We'll see about Ricky Pearsall, but they got Juwan Jennings. I mean, they got a couple other guys that are, really not much of a threat. Now, Brock will spread the ball around, but, that to me is the big key for the defense. Take away Christian McCaffrey, and the Eagles haven't been great against the run this year. Now, you always had the context that they're kind of good with that. It's not really the style of defense that they play, but you expect them to change that approach potentially for this game, just given the personnel that the 49ers have.
No, not at all. But I do expect them to change a little bit when it comes to the passing game and being more focused on his impact there. I think that's a bigger deal, his impact on the passing game. So you have to have a real clear-cut plan to deal with that because, linebackers, the Eagles have Zach Mullen is as good as it gets when it comes to coverage in the NFL as a linebacker. But linebackers aren't used to seeing running backs like Christian McCaffrey.
He's 102 catches this year, John.
Yeah.
That is,
I mean, there's like we talk about good receiving backs. Like I would always say Kenny Gainwell's having a good year in Pittsburgh. He's a great receiving back. And that's all built in amongst other running backs like Christian McCaffrey. I remember going back to when he was coming out and people were telling me this guy runs better routes than all the receivers at the combine. I mean, obviously his dad was a tremendous receiver. He's just different. And he could have played receiver if it went that direction. But obviously so impactful in both parts of it. But I think the bigger concern is him in the receiving game. But the Eagles should be better equipped than most to deal with it because they have not only Zach Bond, but also if you need him, and all indications are N'Kobe will be back. But if you need him, Jod Campbell's tremendously athletic,
right,
and has been one of the better coverage linebackers in the NFL when he's played. So I don't know. Any team is better equipped to deal with it than the Eagles. But he's still going to make some plays, but just need to try.
I wonder if it's a game they try and get Campbell in more, John, even if Dean is healthy.
Yeah, I don't think so. Just because Vic loves N'Kobe.
Yeah, playoffs, right? I mean, playoffs is obviously the big moment. Yeah. What is the update on N'Kobe? I didn't see anything yet on him. Is he's going to be good to go?
Well, there's no updates until tomorrow. Playoffs are not different than a regular season week. It's, first injury report will come out tomorrow. I presume he will be out there. Players haven't been back on the field since, they won't be until Wednesday. So presumably he's going to be ready to go, and he'll be out there because it's very important for Vic to have people that are going to line up where they're supposed to line up at all times, and that's Nakobe and Marcus Epps, who should be back as well.
Yeah, he's been good. All right, John, I got a good topic here for the end of the season that we're going to get into. Before I get into that, real quick, John, I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak a little bit on Black Monday if you had any thoughts. There's a bunch of coaches out. Jonathan Gannon was out. I know you mentioned yesterday you thought he might be back. Obviously, when they went a different direction and they moved on from Jonathan Gannon, a couple others fired as well. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's six head coach openings. I think it's what it is, or 6 or 7. I have to double check on all of them for you. I know Atlanta's one. The Giants are one. The Cardinals are one. And then I'm missing on some other one. Browns obviously are one. I think Stefanski's probably going to be the hottest candidate. I mean, you mentioned yesterday, John, who were the candidates this year?
Yeah.
It might be
a big defensive year.
Might be Stefanski, might be the top candidate.
Depending how you look at it, a lot of, as I mentioned yesterday, a lot of rumors about Flores to Las Vegas, or with Tom Brady, sort of in the New England, mindsets. We'll see if that works out. Stefanski, I do think, is a guy who is so well regarded in league circles that he will get a job. He won't have to sit out a year. Might be Tennessee, might be, the New York team should look at Kevin Stefanski, I think, just to settle that situation down. Obviously, the Jets, for some reason, kept Aaron Glenn. I never like to advocate people being fired because a lot of times I think it's unfair. But in a public-facing league, to be a defensive guy and you're not getting an interception in the entire season and you're behind double digits 52% of the time. I mean, if anybody's got to go, it's got to be Aaron Glenn. And, to get somebody like Kevin Stefanski in there would be a smart situation. So I think Tennessee or the Giants for him will be how it ends up. Yeah, with Arizona, I mean, it's not, that's what people in Arizona were saying. I don't have any, so they went in a different direction. Doesn't surprise me. I mean, they just didn't win enough. In theory, you would go offensive there. Atlanta's probably the best job from a standpoint of talent. And, they were probably the best team in that division this year.
I could see Stefanski going there.
Yeah, I haven't heard much scuttlebutt to that. But you never know how these things shake out. But certainly there's no Rabels or Ben Johnsons this year. I think Kevin Stefanski is definitely your safest of the candidates. And it's so hard because I know Jimmy Haslam was talking about, whatever they won, eight or 10 games, whatever it was over the past 2 seasons, which is unacceptable. It is, but like, okay, well, who's responsible for the quarterback situation there?
Yeah.
It ain't Kevin Stefanski. So I don't know who you want to blame. If you want to blame Jimmy Haslam, obviously he's not going to fire himself. Andrew Berry, was with the Eagles, obviously, they're more culpable than Kevin Stefanski. I mean, to go into a season with what they went into this season with quarterback wise is just untenable. It's just untenable. Like, what did they win? 4 or 5 games, whatever they won. That's astonishing. They won 4 or 5 games with that quarterback play. And those were your options. It's like, where are you going to go? It started with Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders and I guess Joe was there, Joe Flacco. I mean, that's your quarterback plan. I guarantee you that wasn't Kevin Stefanski's plan. So, are they? That's the one team I'll say. I guarantee they're not going to get better at head coach. They're going to get worse.
Well, we'll see what happens. They are the 6 openings. They are the Giants, the Browns, the Falcons, the Cardinals, the Titans, and the Raiders. I don't even know. Not a very good crop of teams to go and be a head coach. Be weary candidates out there. I know everybody wants to be a head coach, but you might end up like JG, fired in 3 years, but I guess you're a whole lot richer after you do it. So we'll see what happens there. All right, John, we got to give some end of the regular season grades for this football team. All right, we're going to talk to Chris Franklin in hour number 2, and the Eagles finish up 11-6 on the year. All right, let's start with Nick Sirianni, John. How would you grade Nick Sirianni's year in 2025?
I hate grades, but average, it's fine. Not great, not bad. Very difficult to sustain in this league, so I give him points for sustaining to a degree which he was capable of. Again, there's one back-to-back division champion in this league, which is astonishing. 11 wins. People are disappointed. Again, the expectations, which are not a bad thing, as he will point out, to have raised expectations, but probably a little bit unrealistic. So I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was great. But he deserves credit for being in the playoffs for 5 consecutive years. I'll tell you that, because it's tough, especially in this town. It's tough. It's tough to keep everything together, as well as he does. So you're always going to have little pockets of angst, because when you lose games, it's like a death in the family here. And there's not a lot of patience, and you got to work within that sort of ecosystem. So, but I don't sit there and say, wow, a tremendous job. It's just, he's good, steady, good, which is not a bad thing.
No, yeah, it's tough coming off Super Bowl, obviously, and they had an interesting schedule this year. So all things considered, I thought Nick had a decent year. Patullo, John, what would you say about Patullo grading-wise this year?
Same thing. Average. Not bad. Not good. I think it's funny. I woke up today and I saw 3 different people say the same thing, paraphrasing. And obviously it's not a talking point, but it was, well, if the Eagles lose, it'll be because of Kevin Patullo. And I'm like, the GPS is already programmed. If you're, how many times if you got your GPS programmed, you're getting to your destination. It's taking you there. So whenever the Eagles do lose, if they lose, he's going to get blamed. But in a large portion of the people that follow this team, not only the fans, but media people, everything else.
I would say it's more driven by not fans. I mean, I see it everywhere, John. And it doesn't matter what outlet I click on, what show I click on, any who I'm listening to. Kevin Patullo is brought up as a problem on the Eagles.
Except this show. Now, there's other people I know who look at it more.
I mean, we're going to talk to Chris Franklin in an hour, too. He's no Patullo fan.
Well, there's very few. It's low-hanging fruit. It's easy. He's not the head coach. The head coach is an offensive guy. The head coach is in charge and tells you in charge every time he gets an opportunity to tell you, and people don't believe him. You're working under constraints, same constraints Kellen Moore worked under, same constraints. Brian Johnson, Shane Steichen, they all worked under the same constraints.
Yeah, well, people scapegoated Brian. I mean, you could argue that I'm
the one who said constantly people scapegoated Brian.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you didn't. I'm just saying, if people scapegoated him, they're obviously going to scapegoat Patullo. They're pretty low ranked in offense. I know you keep bringing up EPA and stuff, but man, they don't score a lot. They don't move the ball a lot. They get a lot of 3 and outs. And look, you keep saying that they don't have this great talent. Saquon Barkley's 28. AJ Brown's 28.
I defy you. You're on the show with every day with me. I defy you to find one time that I said they don't have great talent. I said people overrate.
Not as people think.
I said yes. That is way different from saying they don't have great talent. People think they have historic, should be one of the best offenses of all time talent.
No,
that's what I say. There is no fucking evidence. There has never been any fucking evidence.
So did Howie make bad contracts? Because it's the most expensive offense of all time.
You could use that argument better than they're one of the best offenses of all time, because there's no evidence. When were they one of the best offenses of all time? When did this happen? Did I miss it?
It hasn't.
Because I was there every day.
It hasn't happened. But it's not black and white that they have to be the best of all time. They stink. They're not that good. You're saying they shouldn't be better
one. I said one up. People say one up. Obviously, the best. They did have the best rushing offense. Actually, they were number 2. They didn't even have the best rushing offense. But they had one of the best rushing offenses of all time last year. Of all time. 6th all time. That's one of the best rushing offenses of all time. For one season, they had that on the running attack. Now, the passing attack, it wasn't one of the best 600 offenses of all time.
John, did you insinuate this year, yes or no, that talent level on the Eagles offense has dropped off potentially this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's a lot different than what you just said. Is I said they don't have great talent. I've always said they have top 5 talent. They have top 5 talent. People act like they're the greatest show on turf Rams, or should be the greatest show on turf Rams, or should be one of these great high-flying Peyton Manning Bronco offense.
The greatest show on turf. That's nobody's expecting that. Why do you go to that?
What do you mean? Because I'm talking about the greatest offenses of all time.
I know, but nobody is asking for that, though. John.
You can't say. What do you mean they're not asking for that?
John, they're not even in the top 10 offense this year. Why are you going to a top offense of all time?
Because of the expectation. You can't sit here and play both ends of the fence and say, "Oh, I'm more tempered," and I say they just should be better. Yeah, I've already said 100 times they should be better than they are right now. But there's this expectation that Brian Johnson. Again, let's use Brian, that offense was shitty. And it was objectively not shitty. This offense is objectively not shitty. Tennessee has a shitty offense. The teams that have a shitty offense in the NFL are the Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Tennessee Titans, the New Orleans Saints for most of the year until they got it going. The Vikings for most of the year until they got a little bit better. The Giants. These are awful, awful, awful offenses. The Eagles are not close to that level of awfulness. That's all I'm saying. Now, people have this expectation. They have this. They have that. They have this. They should be that. In the passing offense, which is what I've said, they have never been that. They've been better than they are now. They've also been worse at times last season than they are now. But there's never been any point where they have been one of the best passing offenses ever.
Yeah, that's very true. I know. I don't think I ever said that they were. I think the expectation though is that it should be better than what it's been. And right or wrong, people think
that's a lot more tempered than what I usually get, because I have never said they shouldn't be better than what they are now. But the assumption of so many, and if you don't want to put yourself in that category, that's fine. But to say you don't recognize it by the assumption that so many have said this offense should be the best offense in the NFL, or this offense should be that, or this, because they have A.J. Brown, they have Devontae Smith, they have Dallas Goedert, they have Saquon Barkley. And they have an offensive line that's usually good, but hasn't been as good this year. I mean, have you not heard that? Have you not heard that?
Well, I have, but I think I look at it different. I don't think people legitimately want to see the Rams numbers from the 2000 year. I think people look at the talent on offense and sensationalize by saying this is our output versus the talent. This is a massive that we should be doing better than this. And they use these crazy numbers or crazy teams because they feel as though the talent on the roster is comparable to that. And I happen to agree with that. Doesn't mean I expect them to produce at the same level, but I think the talent level is comparable.
Well, I think if you think the talent level is comparable to, again, some of the great offense, which is not an insult, I don't agree with that. If you think,
well, how many future Hall of Famers do you think the Eagles offense
has? Lane, Jalen's borderline, but if he continues to play, he'll be in the conversation. Saquon's on that route, but he's got to, can't have more seasons like this.
Agreed.
AJ, that's it. Hall of Fame's that's a big bar.
It's an extreme bar.
That's a big bar. Now, Jason obviously is not here. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. As part of this group as a whole. But that's it. I mean, Dallas Goedert's not a Hall of Fame player. Devontae Smith's not a Hall of Fame player. Landon Dickerson's not a Hall of Fame player. They're very good players.
I thought Mailata might have a shot, but he doesn't have the.
No, he's not a Hall of Fame player. He's very good. They're all very good, but that is a high bar.
All right, fair enough.
Trent Williams is a Hall of Fame player. Christian McCaffrey's a Hall of Fame player. George Kittle's a Hall of Fame player.
And they're producing. Now they got Kyle, but they're producing.
Lane produces when he's out there.
I'm saying their offense as a whole. I mean, the 49ers strength their offense.
That's a big bar.
Hall of Fame players, and their weakness is their offense.
Well, I mean, again, the money thing, I get why people go to the money thing, but the money thing is about circumstance and demonstrated performance, and all their good players are on defense are young, which is a good thing, but they're eventually going to have to pay him because, look, the bottom line is the Eagles defense is better than the Eagles offense, and it has been now for 2 years.
Was it better in 22 too? Probably. That was the year they had 76.
It was closer, but yeah, it was probably better. They were number 2 defense in the NFL, 76. Yeah. It was probably better, but it was closer. And then just the splashiness of skill position players. Obviously, quarterbacks are getting paid. Obviously, receivers, high-level receivers get paid in this league. High-level offensive linemen get paid in this league. So, that's just the cost of doing business. To me, again, often the business of football does not align with the actual product on the field. I talk about it all the time. The best players on the Eagles this year, by and large, have been on the defensive side of the football. I think everybody could recognize that. Quinyon, Cooper, Zach Bond, Jalen Phillips since he's got here. Ironically, Jalen Carter's had a down year from what, was expected and what he's supposed to be. Jordan Davis had a phenomenal year. Morrow's played very well. Jalen Hunt is, to me, one of the stories of the season.
Yeah, and part of the reason that they've been better is because of who they got at coach. No,
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. But again, Vic,
arguably a very big part of it.
But yeah, well, Vic's going to get people to where a little bit better than where they get on their own. That's the definition of good coaching. Vic's the best example of this. He's been around for 40 years. That's a long sample size. Now he's been a coordinator for 20, 25, somewhere. He's had a lot of defenses. They're not all like this.
No, that's true. This is what I consistently go back to, and I'm not the expert. I don't profess to be smart enough to know how good of a job Kevin Patullo is doing. But I used to work with Seth Joyner, and Seth Joyner used to say this about coaching, and I always thought it was a great point. He said, when a player believes that a coach can get them better, they listen to the coach. I think you have that in spades with Vic Fangio. I don't know that I see that with Patullo. And most of that comes from how Jalen talks about him. I'll admit that. I've never heard any negativity from AJ or any of these other guys. Most of it comes from Jalen. I feel like Jalen has always been, even going back to that first comment he made last year after the Super Bowl about Patullo potentially becoming the offensive coordinator. I don't know that I feel that with the Eagles offensive players. And maybe that's wrong. But I do feel like these players don't have this unwavering belief that they're getting an advantage from who they have. I think the 49ers players probably feel that offensively. I'm sure, they feel that. I'm sure.
Well, I'm not going to compare Kevin Patullo with Kyle Shanahan. First of all, he doesn't have the autonomy. Even if he was a genius, he doesn't have the autonomy to do what Kyle Shanahan does, number one. So that's number one, which I think people don't understand. But number two, not that he would, because he wouldn't. But again, you got to be in charge, number one, and he's not in charge. Number two, Kyle's, the guy on offense. He's the big Fangio of offense in this league. So that's a high bar. I have never gotten any inkling that players, in fact, the opposite. AJ speaks glowingly of KP, always has. Devontae does.
What about Jalen?
Most of the Jalen, Jalen's not, other than, his usual contradictory self. He'll say,
he has
been KP question.
I've heard some things though from him even more recently of like the sequencing. Like he's talked a lot about, he's used that word a bunch, sequencing recently and stuff like that. And that to me is an indication that he doesn't feel great about the sequencing of the play call, Now maybe I'm taking it wrong. That could be true too. Again, I'm not professing to be the know-all, the end-all be-all, but just from my eye test and what I've observed.
Look, there's no doubt that he'll also say in the same sentence, there's no doubt as a first-time play caller, you're going to have some growing pains.
Do you think he's grown through that? I don't know how to say that. Do you think he's shown growth this year?
Well, it depends what you're looking at. I think he's been off the charts. I don't think they've ever had better red zone play calling than they've had this year in this era.
It has been. He's been really good.
I don't think
I do agree.
Ever been better. Now, when again the 3-and-out stuff, he's got to be better getting some layups and.
Well, because they got to get to the red zone. I'm not sure if you saw it. Well, I guess you were at the game, but on the game on Sunday, they showed on the broadcast, and I've been speculating this. I know they're the number one red zone offense in football. They put up the stat at how many times they've been in the red zone. It's been 40-something times. It's 30th in the NFL or 29th in the NFL, for how many times. Now, they're great when they get there.
Yeah.
But they got to you got to get there to be great in there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's not like, the style of play that they play. And if you're efficient when you're there, that means you're going to be less efficient when they're, it's a double-edged sword. The more times you're going to be there, the less efficient you're going to be, because if you're not scoring, you're probably getting there more because you have a greater sense of urgency to make up for not scoring. But there's a whole, there's so much context and so much layered things that people don't want to get into with these stats. But when they've gotten to the red zone, they've been better than they've ever been in this era by, I would say, a wide margin.
Yeah, and that's
when it comes to what people would call creativity, but really what it is results. That they've been better results-wise.
But I believe that the creativity is a part of the results. I mean, they've had some good calls down there. Even the Goddard stuff that they've used in Goddard, there's a reason he's got the most touchdowns in his career. I mean, Kevin Petula has been great with that. But, again, they got to get there more often. And, red zone's not the only part of the offensive metric. So
no, and that's what I'm saying. So, number one, there's always learning on the job when you're doing this stuff. But Sean Desai is the best example of this. Like, guys didn't listen to him.
Yeah.
I mean,
you don't think that's happening at all with
not even remotely. Haven't heard an inkling of it.
Okay.
Haven't heard an inkling of it. More of the angst stuff has been what it typically is. They don't like the style of football, which again is Nick Sirianni. And I say that unequivocally because he'll say it unequivocally. It's the way he wants to play. And he's got a lot of information and a lot of demonstrated performance that says it's hard to say he shouldn't be playing this way. But yeah, I mean, look, with the offense, and I've already said it. I saw three different people, and these are media people. These are not fans. I saw three different people say, "Well, the only way if the Eagles lose, it'll be because of Kevin Petula." I'm like, why are we even rolling the footballs out? And that's tremendous power.
Yeah, but you've also, agreed to this. If they get bounced on Sunday, which I don't think they're going to, but if they do, you think they're going to fire Kevin, right?
I do. I do.
So does that indicate that the owner would feel that way, even if it's a scapegoat? Even if
again, this is the same thing as what I was saying when I was talking about Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski is fired for one reason, because this is a public-facing industry, and it's got more to do with public relations than anything else. He would be fired as a severed head to the masses at the gate. That's how this league works. And we'll see how Nick reacts to it as well. So it's a little bit more complicated this time. But it's got, as far as Jeffrey Lurie scapegoating people, if he's going to scapegoat people, and history says he will, that's what it's always about. It's not about, Brian Johnson didn't deserve to be fired. Somebody's got to go.
What level do you think Nick will go to defend Kevin? Because you have talked about how he's more loyal to him, being he was Nick's guy.
Well, I don't think he wanted to fire Brian either, but
I didn't want to follow. I didn't think Brian should have been fired. In fact, I thought they did Brian dirtier than anybody I've seen in a long time. Guy's a first-year coordinator who gets his shot in the NFL, produces a top 10 offense, and they fire him like he was problem number one with the worst defense in football. I mean, looking back,
well, they had already, they also fired Sean.
Go back to being a quarterbacks coach. Where is he, or whatever he was when he went to Washington? I don't know where he is now.
Yeah, he's in one. He's the assistant head coach, passing game coordinator.
That was messed up what they did to Brian Johnson. At least I thought so.
No, yeah, well, but that happens. You're seeing it happen this week. It happens all over the league.
Yeah,
it's just what it is. A lot of these guys don't deserve to be. Some do, and it becomes pretty obvious. I don't think it's obvious here. Other people do, obviously, But to me, the mentality of going into like I can say this whole very confidently. You know, the Eagles can't lose this game because of Kevin Petula. He doesn't have that power, number one. You know, Nick could screw something up as far as game management. You know, he could certainly screw something up as far as calling something that maybe there was a better play call for.
So when you say that, though, just to be clear, you more look at it as if Kevin Petula does make bad calls, it's because of the system he's operating within.
No. I'm saying he doesn't have the autonomy to do what he wants. So to judge it,
because he's running Nick's offense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To judge it is kind of ludicrous, and to blame him is kind of ludicrous. But the second thing, to blame any coach, is kind of ludicrous because, again, they ain't in between the lines. The players are gonna define this game.
Yes,
the players are gonna win this game. The players win and lose every single game in the National Football League. 100% of the games. 100%. I'm not singling out Kevin Petula or Kyle Shanahan or Vic Fangio. The players are responsible when they get on the field. Can coaches put them in better positions? Of course they can. But guess what? Players can overcome being put in poor positions. If somebody makes a bad decision, like everybody says, they don't make a bad decision. If somebody gets a bad result, they could have executed better. They could have made the block. They could have Josh Allen could have made the throw in Buffalo. Could have made the throw, even though he was harassed. Still, it's an MVP level player. He could have made the play.
I agree with that point. I just sometimes I think you talk about it like the coaches don't matter. I mean, what the fuck do we have offensive coordinators for? I mean, does Vic give the Eagles defense an advantage? He's not on the field. Does he give them an advantage? Whatever percentage you put on.
Yes.
And does Kyle give the 49ers offense an advantage?
What's the difference between Kyle Shanahan and this conversation? What is the difference between Kyle Shanahan, Vic Fangio, and Kevin Petula?
They run their unit.
They have complete autonomy. Complete autonomy. The only comparisons are Nick Sirianni against Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan against Vic Fangio. And no, here's my point. If you want to do the pie chart, I'm at 90% players, 10% coaches. Get them a little bit better. I think everybody else is at 90% coaches, 10% players. Like they're sitting there with a joystick on a fucking video game.
Do you think coaches are paid too much? I mean, if it's 10% coaches, I mean, what the hell? Why do these coaches? Why is it such a
what is literally everybody? The coaching aspect is more, again, about keeping people on the same page, keeping people, teaching. It's essentially a teaching position. You're a teacher. You're a teacher. And if you got a really bright kid who's got the ability to be a high-level mathematician, get him to that point. But you don't have the ability, that high-level kid who's a mathematician is going to pass the guy who's teaching him if he's got that much innate talent. Same thing happens in football. Literally every single great coach in the NFL, the first thing they will tell you, I had a bunch of great players.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree players are more important. Maybe I just think coaching is a little bit more important than you. That's all right. All right, let's keep rolling. John, how would you grade Vic Fangio this year? Opposite side here.
Best in business. Yeah. Best defensive mind in football. And I've been saying that for many years before he got here. And the proof is not in anything more than who gets copied the most. This is what I would try to explain for people to years. Forget about who won the Super. Who do people copy? And second place ain't close. Same thing with Kyle. That's why I put Kyle. Who do most people copy? And number 2 is not close. It's best defensive mind in football. And he will probably say today. And he said last week, you can look it up. He said, I like good players because they make me look smart. And that was from Vic last week.
Yeah, that's true. Vic has obviously had a great year. He is an awesome coach, man. I hope he keeps going. How much longer do you think Vic will coach, John? I was thinking.
Well, he's 67 years old. I mean,
yeah, somebody gave me the black pill, and they were like, "Hey, buddy, Vic's not going to be there much longer." And I'm like, "Oh, don't tell me that. I'm hoping we get at least 3 more years of Vic, but that might be long."
well, I think he loves it. I think he'll stick. Generally at that age, it's about health. If he's healthy, he'll be here. And right now, he's healthy and he's sharp.
He does strike me as the kind of guy that doesn't. He's good working. At least that's what I think. I don't know. Vic
Oh yeah, I think he'll go as long as.
Some guys are like that. They don't want to retire.
Yeah. Well, you got nothing to do, things can turn dark quickly.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. All right. Jalen Hurts. How would you grade Jalen Hurts this year, John?
That's a tough one because I think I've said on this show, I think for about the first half of the season, I think he was one of the 2 offensive players that improved. And then it kind of hit a tailspin in the second half of the season.
He had that bad stretch. He had I don't know if it was 4 or 5 games. It was a bad stretch for Jalen.
Yeah. I think he's been what he has been for the most part. Obviously, statistically, it's pretty good for him in the passing aspect. The running aspect way down, but I think that was done purposefully to protect him at this stage of his career. And I think that'll amp up. I think he'll be a better player in the playoffs. I think when he's operating with that +1 in the running game, he's a lot more effective. And that makes things more difficult. So I think he's been a well above average NFL quarterback. I hope week 18 gave you a little bit of look at what could be the other side. He's very good. But, he's limited in the passing game, which we've said from day one, basically. But he's very unique, very good. I think it's so funny. He's got a career high, and for the stat people, which I am not, career high in touchdown passes and all. It's a lot of this discussion is just mind-boggling to me. But I think from the standpoint of handling the position, he's gotten a little bit better, and that's generally what happens. The more experience, the better you get at that kind of stuff. But still some things he needs to iron out. Starting with again another flawed stat, which he talked about last week, was getting up to the line late, and he kind of dismissed that with, "Are we getting any penalties?" And with Zach Berman, Zach said, "Not recently," basically, and he said, "Why are we talking about it?" Right. He's handling what he wants to handle at the line of scrimmage, and that needs to be a little bit better because for 2 reasons. One, you want to have more time to kill from run to pass if that option is on the table and you get a bad look. And 2, you don't want the defense to time up the snap count, which I don't think will be an issue this week because San Francisco doesn't have any pass rushers.
Yeah. This is Jalen Hurts' time now, man. This is where Jalen has been great for this team. I'm expecting Jalen has a huge game this weekend. We'll see what he's able to do. I feel pretty good about Hurts this weekend. John, I guess a couple others I'll give you before we get to Chris Franklin. I'm going to give you one that maybe you don't expect here. Jeff Stoutland. John. Offensive line has really underperformed this year. The running game has really fallen off a cliff in a way. Obviously, it's easy to fall off the cliff when the cliff is as high as it was last year. But how would you grade out Jeff Stoutland this year, man? Or do you think it's less
Jeff is the perfect example of what I talked about. Do people think he woke up one day and can't coach anymore? Like, you know, what the Eagles' offensive line issues are about the health of Landon Dickerson and Lane Johnson and Cam Jurgens, and to a certain degree, Jordan Mailata, even though he's played through it. Playing 21 games last year. Losing Mekhi back then when it comes to the running game. And, you know, did he become a bad coach? A lot of people think he became a bad coach. I wouldn't say a lot of people. I think most people know.
I don't know that he became a bad coach, but is it possible that the league maybe caught up to their running scheme last year and, they haven't evolved or changed or improved on it, this year? Is that a fair comment?
Well, I don't think the execution's been there, but, I always point out, and Cilio can talk about this, and I'm sure he has, about how many run plays that I don't know how many. I get the film people and I see the same thing. Well, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's too much inside zone. There's where's the duo? Where's this? Where's that? It ain't there because it ain't executing. Like what? Even less so. The running game is obviously even more restricted than the passing game. From the standpoint of, all right, this is the modern NFL. What you got? Inside zone, you got outside zone, you got duo, you got power, you got pin and pull. What exactly does Jeff Stoutland don't know? Guys aren't executing as well. But so he's the perfect example of, this is one of the best offensive line coaches of all time. Already been honored that way by the PFWA Legacy Award, plus now that they start putting assistant coaches in the Hall of Fame, he'll be probably in the Hall of Fame one day. This is one of the most well-respected coaches in the entire NFL from a position coach standpoint. And they're not executing. They're being taught the same way. Brett Toth is one of the, you want to talk about one of the great stories of this year? Brett Toth, man, has had a great year, and he's played a lot for different reasons. Injury, and he's played center, and he's played left guard, and he's played really effectively. To the point I joked, he's the best center they have. And he didn't play center week 18 because they have Drew Kendall, and they wanted to play him at left guard, and he got a concussion. But he has been a great backup after being years. And I've heard so many people say, why is Brett Toth here? And I'm talking about media people. Why is Brett Toth here? I probably said it myself at one point. It's like, why is he here? Why is he here? He's been here for so long. He doesn't do anything. When he gets a chance, he can't even snap in preseason. And all of a sudden, here he is, and he's forced into action, and he plays damn well. Because, hey, he's healthy, and he's been learning under Jeff Stoutland for 6 years. And all of a sudden, the technique is there, and everything clicks. And that's your hope of down the road. It doesn't happen with everybody, but that's why they draft guys like Cam Williams and Drew Kendall and Miles Hinton. Because the thought is that he'll get them up to speed and turn them into something down the road. But he's the perfect example of great coaching. That doesn't mean you're going to have the best offensive line every year because Jeff Stoutland's there. It means what he does have is going to be better than what somebody else is going to do with them. But if you start with shitty talent, and by no means do the Eagles have shitty talent on the offensive line, they just have banged up guys who can't play up to the level they played last year. There's nothing Jeff Stoutland can do about that. And you know, to the standpoint of, you know, their offensive line being one of, I've heard that so many times this year. They have one of the worst offensive lines. No, they don't. It's not even near the bottom of this league. I mean, there's some shitty offensive lines. Let's see, pass block there. Number 6.
I think the Eagles' play style has really, you know, accelerated the aging on the offensive line. I mean, you heard Jason Kelce talk.
Oh, yeah, no question.
That thing took years off my career.
Well, that freaking, that tush, but that's another thing about that goddamn tush push that everybody's protecting at all costs. The players hate it. They hate it. And now it's not even that successful, and they have gone away from it in recent games. So it's about time. But for everybody protecting that like it's something, you know, especially Jason and, you know, Cam and, you know, the guys inside Landon. That boy, man, because I think Landon was the key to it all, just as the biggest, most powerful guy on the field. And guess what? He isn't the biggest, most powerful guy on the field. Well, he might be the biggest, but he's not as powerful because he's banged up. Same thing that happened to Jalen Carter. Well, you know, you could be the biggest, fastest, most athletic, most powerful guy, but if you can't use your shoulders, like what was going on with Jalen Carter, that's what's going on with Landon Dickerson. But it's a knee, it's an ankle, it's a back, but he's still, you know, he's still out there grinding. And I'll tell you what, if you want to line up the 32 starting left guards in this league, he's still in the top half. He's just not number 1 or number 2. And that's all, to me, injury related. Same thing with Cam Jurgen. It's all injury related. But I mean, and then they did the same thing last year. I mean, those guys couldn't even move after the Super Bowl, Landon and Cam. And they played through that shit. And so I'm glad you brought up Jet, because he is the perfect example of why I look at players over coaches. And he's one of the best coaches ever.
Fair enough. All right, good stuff, John. Good stuff on the grades. I guess there's a couple more we could do. We could probably go Saquon Barkley. Not a great grade for him, I would assume, this year. And then a bunch of guys on the defense we could do. Not enough time. We're going to get to Chris Franklin in a little bit here. Let me get to some super chats today. I want to thank and welcome everybody for being here today. Always a good show. As always, appreciate all you guys. Here's tea time. Yes, good players can bail coaches out and win games, but bad coaching can lose games. Look across the league. Hint Dan Campbell.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, I don't agree with you. Again, you know, look at where the Detroit Lions were before Dan Campbell. Yeah, you know, I get it. It's an upstream. I do this all the time. You're looking at results. The fact that he is so aggressive over a large sample size has proven to be a huge advantage for the Detroit Lions. Whether people don't recognize it, again, good decision, bad outcome. Good decision, bad outcome. It happens. But the more good decisions, the more good outcomes you're going to have. For the Detroit Lions and where they were, Dan Campbell's been a hell of a coach. It's worked here as well. The Eagles, at one time, when they won Super Bowl 52, were the most aggressive team in football. They were ahead of the curve. That is an underrated aspect of the reason they won the Super Bowl, because they were so far ahead of the curve. Now other teams have caught up. You know what drives me crazy? When teams kick 24-yard field goals. That drives me flipping crazy. Because, especially in the modern NFL, if you're inside the 5-yard line and you kick a field goal, And you got to take the points. You hear, the old school, and I'm the old guy arguing against this. You got to take the points. You got to get the points on the board. In this environment, say you touch it back, they're starting at the 35. You might get a better kickoff return. You might not hit the landing zone. It might be the 40. And you're a couple first downs from getting that field goal back. Whereas, hey, at least if you go for it, even if you fail and you make a bad decision, a bad play call, even if you fail, that team has got to go 95 yards to score a touchdown. And as Britton Covey has told me multiple times, if you're backed up, that takes 80% of your offense out of the equation. That's how limited you are when you're backed up. Nothing drives me crazier more than short field goals in the modern game, now that they've shifted to kickoffs. Dan Campbell's aggression, and I guarantee, I've already made this guarantee because they finished in 4th freaking place. The Detroit Lions are going to win the NFC North next year.
It's a bold one. I don't think you're wrong, but we'll see. Here's Pump. The Jalenites keep bringing up how bad the numbers of the Niners defense is. Brother, tell me a bad defense we exploited this year. I just think that's fair.
Yeah, well, we go I would have to get what Pump considers good versus bad, because look at the landscape, look at the playoff teams. We look at all the playoff teams, like who's good, who's bad. So I got to get that definition. But I mean, they're limited offensively, and part of that is schematically. Part of that is risk averse. We've been talking about this for years. They play a certain style because they don't want to turn the football over. And it's worked for them.
Pump, appreciate the super chat. Let's go to our main man, Chris Franklin, set to join us right here on Birds 365. Let's bring him in now. You can follow him at C Franklin News. Chris, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show. It's playoff time, Chris.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I love this time of year. It's fun. It's actually probably one of the best group of teams we've had in the playoffs in a while. So I'm looking forward.
Really? Yeah. See, right off, I'm disagreeing with it.
Well, parody.
I
think you mean parody, right? I mean,
parody. Yes.
Come out.
Oh yeah, you don't have dominant teams, but the fact that you don't know who's going to win. Oh yeah. No. These aren't. This we're not talking about like the 85 Bears or.
I think 49ers. This might be the 2 worst number 1 seeds I can remember. Like, I don't believe in either of them a little bit. No. And they could both win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that, but they don't strike me as like Detroit last year, and they didn't even get to the NFC Championship, but they look like a number 1 seed. That looked like a juggernaut, and it didn't work out for them. You usually have those types of teams. The Eagles were that way when they were number 1 seed. Kansas City, many times. Boy, I don't get that feel with either of these teams. Would it shock you if they get upset right away, either of those teams? Seattle, Denver?
It really wouldn't. And I wouldn't even be surprised to say like this first weekend, especially on the AFC side, if I can really see all the lower seeds advancing. You can see like individual chances, maybe not the Chargers so much, but in a certain right conditions, you can see that happening. But then you look at Seattle, I question if it's easier said than done, but I question if you can stop Jackson Smith and Jigba, that's their whole that's pretty much the whole entire offense. Because Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, they're nice backs, but not backs I think that can take over again.
Scare you. They
no,
don't scare
their defense is really good. And then when they do host, I guess they're trying to do like the old, similar to what the Eagles have done, where you allow your defense, you allow that crowd noise to really put the pressure on the offenses to try to create turnovers and limit their chances to move the ball down the field. And you just hope that Darnold doesn't turn the ball over and then try to advance that way. They got to play the conservative game a little bit more in terms of that. So I can see that's for that. Denver, on the other hand, I'm not in love with their defense. I know their defense is ranked really high. I'm not really in love with it. I know Patrick Surtain can take. Patrick Surtain's the only one. I'm like, okay, you know what? I like what he did. Nick Pitino does some nice things, but Surtain's the one for me. And I'm like, all right, cool. He can take half the field away. But if you get the right offense with multiple weapons, yeah, they could do that. It's the quarterback that I'm worried about for the Broncos. So this is why I like it, because we can get some weird matchups in the Super Bowl. You never know. That's why I'm liking
Do you
the
guys
way it's
see a
going.
comp with the Broncos to the 22 Eagles? Good defense, a lot of sacks, young quarterback, unproven, can make plays.
But I think their young quarterback is susceptible to mistakes where the Eagles' young quarterback was not, even though he did make a mistake in that Super Bowl. But by and large, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Bo Nix reminds me of Baker Mayfield. That's who he reminds me of. It's just like, well, he's going to run and he's going to pull some stuff out of his you-know-what. So from that standpoint, there's a little bit of a comparison with Jalen Hurts, who can extend plays and have those back-breaking plays against the defense. But Jalen takes care of the football. Bo Nix is out there.
Oh, we just lost Chris. I don't know where Chris went.
Yeah, so to me, Bo Nix is just, I'm with Chris. I have a lot of, he's got to prove it to me that he's not going to make mistakes in a big spot.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Chris, man, what do you make of Eagles-Niners this weekend? The regular season's now wrapped up. A lot of conversation all year, Chris, about the offense, Patullo. The defense has been obviously great, especially since Week 10. What's your early feeling in this playoff matchup, man? Niners coming to Philly for a Sunday 4:30 matchup.
At first, I really wasn't liking this matchup at all. I saw the Niners that offense that was dominant in the last couple weeks before they laid that egg against Seattle.
And they were really cooking, Chris, for a little bit there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like the Capistranos return and the Swallows return to Capistranos. George Kittle gets hurt. Well, there's a shocker there. Christian McCaffrey's surprisingly upright, but he's been dinged up and he's not really running.
He's got a bad back.
Yeah,
he's got a bad back.
And we saw the 49ers, their success usually was running the outside zone, play action. They can't run to the outside as well as they did beforehand. They're relying between the tackles. And Juwan Jennings, he's a nice player. Somebody I think he's a good number 2, but without Pearsall, if it looks like he injured his PCL, so he may not be back. It's you can control this offense. Their defense is banged up. The Eagles can take advantage of it, and the only way I think they can really, really take advantage of it, now that Eric Kendricks looks like he's going to be the middle linebacker, they have to throw over the middle. And when you have to throw the middle, and we see what happens with this offense, it seems like Jalen Hurts doesn't like to throw. He can throw it. He's more risk averse. It seems like throwing the middle because there's more people in there. They're going to have to do that in order to have success. So I can see this being a game where you feed Dallas Goedert a lot. As much as I hate those routes they run all the time with that one too,
flat route,
the hitch routes in the the flat routes. I'd actually attack the seams more with him because I think he can really go. I like that matchup, him versus Kendrick. So if you get the motion the right way, you can get it the right way. You can get, motion.
Boy, if this were 2000, if this were 2017, I'd be really concerned about Eric Kendricks. He's a hell of a player. It is not. In fact, you better keep your phone on, Chris, because Kyle Shanahan might need you to play linebacker on Sunday. They are a mess defensively. Mess.
The question is, Chris, will the Eagles offense take advantage of a bad defense? I've been saying this all year, and I know John likes this matchup for that reason, but offense has struggled this year, Chris, and I don't have this unwavering confidence that the offense is going to take advantage of a bad 49ers defense. Chris, you're muted, brother. There you go. You're good. You're good.
I know. The only thing I think they do that is if they get up early on, because we've seen this offense, this coaching staff, and this offense have struggles when Robert's always going to make adjustments, especially in the second half. unless the Eagles get up big, if it's tied into the fourth quarter, then I'm starting to worry because we've seen this offense have issues the second half, not move right. If they're able to get up, say 10, 17 first quarter or in the first half, then I feel a little bit more better about that. I don't know so much if we'll continue to see that. I just don't trust the adjustments that Patul can make in game as much as Salah can make in terms of that. So they'll need to run in game. You should be able to run against this 49ers defense. I know they're tougher on the road. They are like ranked 11th heading into last week against on the road stopping the run. Well, in the passing game, they should be able to attack them because they're ranked 31st in the average yards allowed on the road. So you should be able to attack these guys, but it's the fact of, are we going to see the same routes over and over and over again? You need your creative duck. Whatever. I'm praying upon praying. If I'm the Eagles, that Patul's been all right. Cool. Now we got the postseason. Here's a separate playbook. We're going to call these plays and you do that. But
I think it's been the same playbook for 5 years, so I don't think it's changed. But I do think, at some point, the attrition becomes too much. I think you saw it with Detroit last year, and I think you're seeing it with the San Francisco 49ers this year. I mean, that front seven, not just the linebackers, that front seven is unrecognizable from what it was supposed to be. And my concern is, the Eagles just stick to their playbook, and I'm not talking about the literal playbook, their philosophy, which is whether you want to call it conservative, risk averse, whatever you want to call it, and just don't turn the football, get out of there with a win. I don't think they'll take advantage of it. I have that concern, but I don't think they'll be in peril. I think it's very similar to last week's game. Seattle only scored 13 points?
Yeah.
But they moved the football at will. And then they had a couple missed field goals, which is weird for them because Myers is.
I think they were 0 for 3 in the red zone too. That's obviously what kept them down a little bit as well.
Yeah, they missed field goal. But they moved the football whenever they wanted to move the football. I think you're going to see the same thing this week with the Eagles, but they're probably going to be just as conservative as the Seahawks because of how limited San Francisco is from a health standpoint coming into this game. That's my fear. And if you play it too close to the vest, all of a sudden you look up in the fourth quarter, it's a one-score game, and maybe the football bounces the other way.
Yeah, and also I think there's an added thing that I was just randomly just like, you know what, let me listen to what's going on out there on the West Coast and 49ers, like just to see the sentiment of fans and everything. They are fuming right now. Shanahan is under – 49ers are going to fire him. But it's gotten to the point where you're looking like, I think Shanahan's coaching for that seat to get a lot cooler for next season, and maybe just the influence he has in that organization. Because to go through all that stuff, to not be able to win a Super Bowl with that talent, and now all of a sudden coming into this year, you're limping. You can't keep using, we were hurt. Well, we were hurt, and every single year, and then not to get the most out of that roster because some of those rosters were stacked. So now you're coming in this year, you got to go on the road. You're proving this. You're just coming off a game on the road against a division rival where, I'm sorry, their offense that didn't scare me personnel-wise. Their offense is milquetoast-ish compared. Now you got all these guys here. You're just hoping the offense coordinator decides to use them the right way. If you don't, you could just talent alone, this Eagles team offense should be able to dominate against the 49ers defense. So, yeah, it's a bad situation for them. And I wonder if, and we know the game, and you also go over Shanahan in that game management issue that he has where he gets too engrossed looking at his play sheet.
Yes.
That's going to pop up a couple times. So
time management, game management mistake. Yeah, it's coming. Expect that. I will say this, if they fire Kyle Shanahan, the rest of the league will be thrilled. And everybody will be lined up.
No way that would actually happen.
By the way, speaking of fired, the Dallas Cowboys fired defensive coordinator Matt Eberfluz. That'll be a fourth defensive coordinator in 4 years.
Oof.
Yeah, keep it going, Jerry. Boy, people in this league don't learn, man. They don't learn.
You know who would be interesting? I think, and I seriously think was serious to be on the radar because I don't think he's getting a head coach. Gannon would be an interesting spot down there.
Yeah, he's going to get if he wants to, he's going to get a good defensive coordinator job, no doubt. Yeah, well, the Cowboys are trying supposedly to hire Flores, but I think he's going to be the head coach in Las Vegas. That's what you don't want. You don't want Brian Flores in this division for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, especially the way he blitzes, the amount of blitzes, the way he comes up creatively with that, and the way he can actually teach up defensive backs, which is foreign down for the most part. And they need, and especially Cowboys need that since Al Harris left, which Al Harris should have been the defensive coordinator, which is the dumbest thing that.
And he might get that job. He might get that job. Yeah. Al Harris. He's in Chicago, right?
Yeah. And look at what their DBs are doing. A lot better than what they were doing the previous year. He has that innate sense of now how to connect with the players, and which is key. So, and also we always remember him playing here in Green Bay, the way he was able to effectively cover guys, and especially in that nickel area. So, yeah, he's a high. I don't know. I wonder if he's going to be slighted. That's another guy I wouldn't want to see coming to this division. In fact, I'd rather have Gannon go down there because at least you know what you're getting with that instead of having Al Harris or Flores. If they get one of those two,
I could see Gannon going there.
Yeah.
Jerry, that to me is right up Jerry's alley, but we'll see what ends up happening with that. Chris, what's your confidence level or lack of confidence in Kevin Patullo coming in? Me and John were talking about him earlier. John says people's navigations are preset. Kevin Patullo's getting the blame if they lose the game, which you might be right.
I've already seen 3 people say it. Well, the only way the Eagles can lose this game is if Kevin. I go, wow, I didn't know Kevin had that much power.
Well, Chris, what do you think of Kevin Patullo? Do you think he's could be a red flag for the Eagles coming into this game?
Yeah, for all the things I mentioned, his ability to adjust on the fly. I mean, everybody come in with a script and come in with a plan. We all know the Mike Tyson quote, whatever. But you come in with a plan. I just don't know if he could do enough things to say if Salah decides to throw a whole entire different defensive look this week, and it's like oh no, brick, crap. All right, here we go. If he'd be able to come up and have a backup plan and think on that or fly and to go there. The offense, I look at we've seen the route. We talked at nauseam about the routes, the hitch goes, all stuff like that. Diversify. So I just look at the way
hitch. Hey, stop stop covering AJ and DeMonte one-on-one, and they won't hitch it.
Yeah. So until they get that fixed, I'm going to have stuff in the back of my mind. I don't think now if Hurts comes out and throws like 3 interceptions, and we obviously know that is obviously on the quarterback for throwing those interceptions 9 times out of 10. Well, 7.
I'm going to take the under on Jalen with 3 interceptions.
Yeah, I'm going to take that hard too. Yeah, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, yeah, I'm putting a lot of money under 3. But I think Patullo. It's a concern. I wouldn't say, oh my goodness, like no. I'm not feeling, oh wow, he's absolved. I feel confident. I'm ready to do this. Nah, I'm still a little concerned. But back in my mind, I'm keeping that a note. If they run the same game plan out over and over and over and over and over again, come Sunday.
Speaking of unscouted looks, that's been a big bugaboo for the Eagles this year. They claim they're getting a lot of unscouted looks. People are doing different things than what they show on tape because, they're taking a shot at the reigning Super Bowl champion, which isn't rare. But I know Eric Dickerson, the coach, not the running back, is responsible for sort of highlighting what personnel the defense is in. And often it's not what the Eagles expect. And they gotta, you gotta start banning from play one, man.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a lot like when you get bad intel like that, you start to wonder, like, okay, they can show one thing and then they go the other. Yeah, but overall, if you have all these unscouted looks, you got enough coaches back there. Like, say if they run a 5-man line, you've seen that before. You've got things you can run back to, and it's different from the actual thing. But you've seen the looks enough where you go, oh, they're gonna play the inside. That should be fixed like within a series or two. That's an effort of a while, and then the talent go take over and you go from there. If it continues like you don't know one look from the next, then I start to look, okay, why aren't these guys figuring this out? Why are the coaches seeing this? You should know this because there's only so many fronts you can show. There's only so many coverages you can show. mix them up like that. But you should know that over time with as many looks as you can, because it's not like anybody's going to come out with like a single wing or whatever defensively, or nobody's going to come out with like some 46 defense against the Eagles now. So there's enough things that you can see with all these veterans that they have. They should know immediately, or at least within the first couple of drives, okay, they're playing us this way, we should go to this. It's a matter of the coaching staff, I think, calling the right play calls and getting that down to the players, giving that info, saying, listen, we see this, we're calling this to adjust that. So this is a big coaching staff game for me in terms of that. And then I think it's a matter of just playing possession, not turning the ball over. That's the biggest things for me looking into this game.
What about my concern is when we talk about those, you're right about, there's only so many fronts, only so many coverages. But I don't know how you account for the center whiffing blocks other than play a different center, which I don't think is going to happen. I've often said, can't play offense if you can't block people. Doesn't matter what the skill position people are. Doesn't matter how good they are. Can't block people, can't play offense. What about the way this offensive line is played at the end of the season, which has not been great?
There's a lot left to be desired on there. I think it will get a shot in the arm with Lane coming back. You just worry about the rust factor, the speed, but he should be fine on there. And I think at least that will help that right side line. And for me, Landon Dickerson is like the Jason Peters plan right now, where he's so banged up and you're going to lose him out. And that's what too. And this really goes back to, you can't change it much now, but the depth, surely underestimated that depth that they had. We overestimated the depth they have in an offensive line, because I'm sorry, Matt Pryor is not, I don't feel confident him coming back for it. I feel better with Fred and Phil Pryor as a guard. But even then, you don't have that depth, somebody goes down. And if you're just talking about the starters overall, I don't know when it comes to Jordan, is on the outside, he just hasn't been as effective as he was in the past. It's bad. And then Jerkins, I don't think he's right. I still don't think his back is right. His speed and everything else. So, yeah, you're right about there's some concern about that line. It maybe, and this is where it goes back to, we talked about it last night, maybe they don't call design rollouts like that much because it splits half the field a lot. This might be the time to do it. But they won't do it because philosophically they want to stay with the way it is, like the 5-3-5, and go from there. But it might be the time to start doing that a little bit more, at least save Jalen a little bit, and maybe just to give a different unscouted look to them, because it's this all the way that this offense is also played. It seems like they're just reacting to what everybody else is doing, and sometimes you just say, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to run it. This is what we have. This is what we do it.
Kevin got in trouble when he said sometimes you run the ball just to run the ball.
Yeah,
I thought, well, A, I was the one who asked the question, so I felt bad. And I'm like, B, though, I'm like, people don't know this, that, this happens occasionally. If people do run the ball just to run the ball, it's not unique. People close out games every week. You go up there, say, hey, we're going to run the ball. We're going to try to close. The Eagles at back were very effective at that last season, closing out games. And they have been for a number of years now. They haven't been as effective this year. But I was surprised how that surprised people. Like, do people not know that teams run the ball just to run the ball occasionally? Yeah, it does happen.
And that was one of the things where I'm glad he was honest about that stuff. But you wanted to say it out loud.
I'm like, but shouldn't you be able to say that? Shouldn't you be? I agree with you from the standpoint. I'm like, that's not going to go over well. And I knew it wasn't going to go over well. And I'm like, why is that an issue? But it is. That might be the hardest part of these jobs. Like, you can't tell the truth.
My thing with that is, you can run the ball to run the ball. Just don't run it on 3rd and 6. You decide to just go, okay, let's hand the ball off or this way. Or it's a situational times when he decides to run the ball just to run it.
Well,
and
that's
you gotta
fine.
And you got to vary it up too, because look at this time. Let's see, like, when they're going up tempo, you get a big play. You say, you know what, we're going to run the ball on the ball. 9 times out of 10, we know it's going to be Barkley getting the ball running up the middle, and he just wasted it down just to. And I hope it's not just we're going to run the ball just to run the ball because we're already going up that way. He runs up there. It's like, all right, you wasted it down. Now you're second and long, and you just put yourself in a bad position early on. So I don't mind them sustaining the run game. I get it. It's not doing well if you don't have confidence in your passing game at the moment, or it's like there was something you need some time to look at stuff. Okay, run the ball, try to settle it down, or it's even momentum. If your defense has been out there for a long drive, sometimes you just need to save your defense. Your defense is really that good. They just need to catch a break, to catch a breath. I get those situations. It's when it's like, wow, okay, 2nd and 10, we need to really make things. 2nd and 13, we need to make things easier because we didn't do well in the first down.
Here's how you make it easier. Don't be 2nd and 13.
Yeah. And that also goes to stop running the ball. As ineffective as his run game has been so far, don't automatically run the ball when they got 8-9 in the box. And doing just to say like run the ball just to run the ball. It's like, well, here we go.
By the way, I'm glad you brought this up, Chris. Do you know what Tanner McKee's biggest mistake was on Sunday?
Not running. Not the biggest thing was A was the interception, but B, when he had I think it was like 3rd short, 2nd short, whatever, 3rd short, and he decided to throw the ball and say he had a clear lane to step up and run in the pocket and get that first down.
That's a good guess, but it was after the game in his press conference when he told me that, hey, we're pure progression here, and then in these instances we're cutting off, we're reading coverage and cutting off. I'm like, dude, you're going to get in trouble for saying that.
Again, it's like, thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
I love it. I love that he said it, but I was shocked that he said it.
He's a nice guy, but a little too much. And sometimes, like, and that, I know that argument's going on right now around in the league. Like,
I know. That's why. I asked Nick about it.
I'm shocked he did, but sometimes to each his own. I'm still waiting for maybe if that's what Jalen prefers, because we've heard so many times that Nick said you need to tailor the offense around your players and your best thing. Quarterback's obviously your most important position. If that's the way it Hurts, I think that gave more insight to maybe if that's what Hurts likes a little bit more. Maybe there's more progression part, but
there was a great quote from Joe Montana, and somebody, I think it was Kurt Warner, who was expressing it. And it was back when George Seifert, it was back when it was Montana, when they were going from Montana to Steve Young, and they were pure progression. And Montana obviously was Montana. And George Seifert went up to Montana one day, or asked him one day, why the freak can't Steve Young do this? And Joe Montana let him in on the secret. He's like, yeah, I don't do that. I look at the coverage and I cut out, whatever. I see what the coverage is, and you can't get from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. You're going to get sacked. Cousins said that a couple of weeks ago. You're going to get sacked, fumbled. So either way, you got to rule out. If you're a smart quarterback, you're ruling out guys pre-snap and then making it more manageable. 1, 2, 3. It's hard to get to 5, man. It's hard to get the 5
because we hear so many times, about that. Everybody pretty much heard about that clock for the quarterback. When you think that it's 4, it used to be 4 seconds. To me, I think it's going down like 3.8, 3.7 because just the natural abilities of these guys. There is no way in hell somebody goes like, well, I dropped down to my 4th progression, and after looking at this, unless your offensive line is giving you so much time where you're able to do that. No, it's an educated get. You're taking a lot of basically quarterbacks taking a lot of educated guesses. I think this guy's going to be here. The receiver, we practice so much, he should be there at this time. I'm going to throw the ball to this area in the window. He should be there. If not, then you start to see those picks like, what was he doing throwing the ball in that area? Well, his receiver should have been there. It's a lot of that. So,
but I love the fact that Joe Montana and somebody like George Seifert has no idea. And he's like expecting Steve Young to be Joe Montana. And Joe's like, yeah, I didn't do that. I just ruled out these guys pre-snap. I thought it was a great story.
Chris,
go ahead,
John. Chris, what's the magic number this week for the Eagles defense? They got to hold the Niners to what? to win the game? Because I don't think the Eagles offense is capable of going out and putting up 28, 35. Now, I don't think they'll have to. But what's the magic number for the defense this week to hold the 49ers offense to where the Eagles can win the game?
17. 17, that's it. Because that's at least you give them 2 touchdowns, maybe one per half, a long fourth quarter. See, I think they can give Purdy fits this week. I really do. I think their pass rush against that offensive line could do really well. The moment
I think Brock Purdy is just hoping he doesn't tear his UCL on play number 3 or
he
whatever
gets
it was.
those flashbacks looking like wait, start seeing visions of Hassan Reddick. Wait, all of a sudden, no, it's Jalen Phillips. No, it's Hassan Reddick. No, I don't know what's going on. Ow, my arm. Something like that. Yeah. But no, I think if they can start to get to the 20s and dare I say it, it's shootout-ish levels, which I don't see happening with this offense. If they get over 24, 49ers get 24, then yeah, it's a loss and the season's over, in my opinion. But I think 17.
Woo!
Yeah,
and then KP's out the door.
Yeah, I think there's be some changes for sure, no matter what. Unless they get KP, I think unless they get to the divisional round, the conference championship, if they can't get this and they struggle even then, to make changes. But this defense needs to hold them to 17. I think they will hold them 17 or less, just by the way, based off what they're doing. They play the tight ends very well. So Kittle's not, even if he's healthier, he's not. I think they can neutralize him. It's a matter of just getting, if you have Jahad Campbell and N'Kobe Dean's back versus Christian McCaffrey, Jack Bond in those flat areas, and they need to tackle McCaffrey on the first thing, gang tackle him.
Well, that's a good thing about the Eagles. They tackle well, especially Cooper and Zach.
Yeah, hell, I might even use Cooper almost as a quasi spy on McCaffrey because he's that involved in the passing game. I use that, and I think there's just so many pieces and so many things the Eagles defense can throw at them that they should be able to take care of the Niners. So 17.
That's a good point though on Cooper. I mean, I know Vic probably won't do it, but who would you rather beat you, McCaffrey or whoever else they'd line up in the slot? You know what I mean? I'm with you on that. Take away McCaffrey, you're going to be in a good spot. But all right, Chris. You reserve the right to change this. It's only Tuesday, my friend. We've got 5 days here for the game. Who do you feel is going to win the football game on Sunday? Eagles, Niners in Philly.
I have a final score. I think the Eagles win this one. I think it's going to be 23-14. Wow. I think they're able to do that.
I like that score. I might steal that score.
I gave an early score on the postgame show and I put 23-13 because that Seattle game changed my perspective on the Niners offense. Really did.
When they play stout defenses, they're not. I think they're right now. Those 49ers are living off their lore from a couple years ago. They're not.
And they don't have the receivers. They don't have the receivers.
They really don't.
That's a big issue. And if Pearsall can't play, and it's looking like he's not going to be able to play, it gets even worse.
The only other thing I'm saying is they cannot keep their mouth shut because Juwan Jennings is going to try to draw him. He says some off the wall stuff, very off the wall stuff.
Is that right, Chris?
He's an instigator. He will say some stuff. You have Q try to throw a punch. You can't have. I don't think he'll be able. Although there was a Packers game last year, but I know they can't lose anybody in that secondary because Jennings will try to get in your head and say some stuff. So. They can't allow that to happen. So keep Jalen Carter away from Juwan Jennings, vice versa. So you go from there.
23-14. I like it, Chris.
I like that. That's the best prediction of the week. Keep Jalen Carter away from there. That's a good one, actually.
Easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
All right, Chris, good show, man. Appreciate you joining. Make sure everybody goes and follows Chris at C Franklin News. Read all his work at NJ.com. One of the best in the business. Chris, you going to the game this week, I assume?
Yep, I'll be there. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll be following your work. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Chris. That was great stuff from Chris Franklin. Appreciate him joining in today. Great interview, as always. Love talking to Chris and getting his perspective here as we go into the playoff. John, we got a couple super chats to read to wrap up the show today. But, John, any key takeaways from what Chris had to say, man? A lot of good conversation there with our boy Chris Franklin.
Yeah, Chris is great. Yeah, I mean, I just think that this team is very limited coming in, and most of it's injury related. I think it would be different, and that's sort of the luck of the draw. But the Eagles have been lucky a lot when it comes to health, so I think that's something people should pay more attention to because It's half the battle in this league is getting to this point and winning the war of attrition. And they've already won the war of attrition when it comes to the Eagles versus 49ers. And that's 9 times out of 10, that's going to be who wins the game.
John, that's been a theme for how many years?
Yeah.
This is why I couldn't criticize Nick last week. I get it. People wanted to win the game. I can't criticize Nick when it comes to player health right now. It's been too successful the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, for all those, and again, I get it. But this year, and they would never admit it, but this year is a little bit different because I think you have so many unproven teams in the playoffs. And I don't think, even though I don't agree with it fully, I don't think they look at Chicago as a potential daunting trip. And they've not played well as the season has gone down, which I think is a big thing. But if you look at the guys who did get hurt on Sunday, Grant Calcaterra got that hip drop tackle. We'll see how he is. Which they did not call. They never call hip drop tackles, but that guy, whoever, I forget who tackled him, he's going to get fined. Brett Toth, who's important as a backup, as I mentioned, and Brandon Johnson, who started the game at safety. So imagine if that was Dallas Goedert, Landon Dickerson, and because Brett started at left guard, and Reed Blankenship. They had 3 players hurt. Imagine if those were the 3 starters, same positions. Imagine how different it looks. So, I don't completely agree with it, but they won the war of attrition. That game's over, and they're in a good position to win this game because of it.
No doubt about it. Let's see what happens in this game this weekend. Should be a good one. Let's get to some super chats here today. I want to thank everybody for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button. Get some supers early in the show. Menifee had a few. We'll get to those. Menifee says, "Who do you predict will rep the NFC in the Super Bowl?" Give me the Birds.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are going back to the Super Bowl.
Wow. Here's Menifee again. Has Vic ever lost to a one-weapon team? Well, I think they're more 2 weapons, but one is fine.
Yeah, George is pretty good, man. I'll
tell you what, though, man. The Seahawks really had both of those guys bottled up last week.
And don't dismiss Jennings. He's a good player. But, again, it's like, compared to what they had, at one point when they're really hot, like when they came here for the championship game and Brock got hurt, that's when they were really clicking, and they actually destroyed the Eagles the next year, if you remember.
Yeah,
that's when they were really clicking offensively. That team's a lot different than this team. This is about McCaffrey and Kittle for the most part. And McCaffrey's banged up too. He's going to play, obviously, but he's got a bad back. And Kittle's always banged up, so Eagles already won that battle, like I said.
Here's Menifee again. If it's all players, why are offensive coordinators paid so much?
I didn't say it was all players. I said players are more important. Everybody's paid a lot. It's the NFL. Why would they pay them a lot? Because you got to teach people. They're teachers who get paid a lot.
Yeah.
Because the NFL generates a lot of money.
I have no problem.
Do they get paid a lot compared to the star players? No. Why is that? The head coach is the boss of the quarterback. Who gets paid more?
Yeah, the quarterback. Yeah, but I mean, and this isn't a perfect comp, and you're not going to like it, but it is what it is. Just where I'll go because it's relevant to me. Alabama still had a number 1 recruiting class this year, top recruiting class. Different coach, different outcomes, different team, different identity, different personality. Now, that's not a perfect comp, I'm just saying. But I think coaching has a little bit more of an impact than you do. I think that's where we differ.
Coaching has a big impact. People can
parse I'd be more 70-30, John. You said
on the field. Off the field is where coaches have the biggest impact. Like I said with Vic, and I say this constantly. Now with Google and anybody in the world, if you want to, can go search right now and find everything Vic does defensively from a scheme standpoint. There's charts, there's graphs, there's playbooks, there's literal old playbooks. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Go teach it. Go teach the responsibilities.
Yeah, but that's what makes them great, right? I mean, that's what you're looking
Exactly.
for.
That's the more important part.
Well, is Kevin doing
That's
it?
the more important part, not the 4th and 2 failed, and I don't like the results, and he's a bad coach.
Well, he did
Whether
have two
Dan
fourth downs.
Campbell or Kevin Patullo or whoever.
No, he did have 2 fourth downs with Tanner McKee. He's got an empty set with a 6'6" quarterback who can't fucking move. I mean, come on. That to me, I'm like, you're not putting players in position to succeed there. 3rd and 3, 4th and 3. And then they had a 4th and 1 later. Empty set. 5 wide.
What is empty set 6'6"? What is that? What
you take away the opportunity to run. The defense knows exactly what you're going to do.
Empty 90% of when the Eagles run empty, the run and shoot had Warren Moon who couldn't run a lick at 40 years old. It's not about running the football.
Is that the right call at 4th and 1?
It's not the right call because it failed. When the Eagles, 2 weeks earlier, when the Eagles went empty a bunch and were having tremendous success. Look, I don't get you guys. I admit it. Like when you say something, what is 6'6" to an empty set? An empty set 9 times out of 10 is about passing the football. It's about tempo. It's about spreading the defense out.
1 yard. Don't you want to keep the defense guessing on what you're going to do? If you have an empty set with a quarterback who can't move, everybody knows you're not running the football. I need 1 yard.
You can go empty and bring the running back in. They do it a million times. There's a million ways to manipulate the defense. When you look at it, what I'm saying is a perfect example. You're judging the fucking result. It might have been a bad call and they would have had a good result. Look, I get it. Everybody does it, but this is what I don't understand. Like, you're talking about a 4th and 1 call in a week 18 with a bunch of backups. Maybe they're working on something for Jalen Hurts and seeing if it's going to work. There could be a million reasons.
Okay.
It's like, but the result failed. Again, what is their sample size in the red zone for an entire season?
Because I don't think they went into it with a good approach. That's the point. I mean,
yeah, I get it. But how do you? I get it.
On the result, yes, people judge results, but certain calls can lead to a different probability of getting said result. I mean, if I have a better call, my probability of getting a good result is increased. No.
Yeah, of course, but again, it's the decision making versus the outcome. You're judging the outcome and assuming the decision was bad. It could be the opposite. It could be the opposite.
I would.
That's my point. We have no, and I'm not picking on people. You have no way of knowing. I have no way of knowing. I can ask Kevin. He might explain what they were trying to do, and I guarantee it's going to be a different description. That I can guarantee. But as far as just that simple description of empty set, that's not why you run empty set because you have a quarterback who can run the football. Now, when you have a quarterback who can run the football and just if something goes to shit and could just run it in, that's always great to have that option. But the vast majority of empty sets and runs and shoots, it's about the passing game. It's not about the quarterback running. Now, occasionally the Eagles, because they have a running quarterback, will go quarterback draw and things like that. That you can't do with Tanner McKee. But the assumption that an empty set is about limiting yourself, it's not about that. It's about because you want to do something in the passing game. Did they get it effectively accomplished? No. But that's what at that base level, it's just like the quarterback being 6'6" and not being a dual threat has nothing to do with it. You're not going to eliminate that from the playbook. You're not going to eliminate.
But that doesn't make it a good call in that moment when you need a yard and you have fourth down. You got one play to do it. And
I'm saying that I'm just
hurt back there. I think it's a good call because Jalen can do more.
You see, I that's what I'm trying to say. Your baseline thought where you're starting the process is incorrect. So how good could the evaluation be? Like if you think you're only running empty.
I mean, I don't. Are you the arbiter of all things truth? I mean, that's your opinion. We have different opinion on it. That's okay.
No, it's not an opinion. If you think empty sets is about a mobile quarterback and you're only going to run it with a mobile
I think an empty set on 4th and 1 with a quarterback who doesn't run is not the right call. The defense is going to know what you're trying to do.
All right. So again, I don't care how many times you shift the goalpost. I'm going from your original statement.
No, I didn't shift the goalpost. I said the same thing. I thought it was a bad call with Tanner McKee.
Because he can't run. That's why you think it's a bad call, which is fine.
I guarantee
I'm not saying you can't.
I guarantee the Commanders defenders were out there like, oh, I know what they're doing here.
Well,
if it's Jalen Hurts, it's a different ballgame.
I'll tell you what, you got a lot more confidence than me because I can't say that.
Okay.
I can't say that. I know Kyle Shanahan can run empty sets. I know the best offensive minds in football, in the history of football. Again, I bring up
run them ever, John. It's the circumstance that I didn't like it. I'm not saying you can never run an empty set with Tanner McKee. 4th and 1. 4th and 3. Quarterback running back's getting 5 yards of carry. You don't put the threat in the backfield. You don't even show it.
So what do you want? Like 4th and 3. Again, so at the baseline of it all, and I got to go, but at the baseline of it all, you're again, the number 1 red zone offense in the NFL over a strong sample size, over a long sample size. Are you saying run the football just to run the football? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying make an illusion on the defense that they have to look for multiple things. If I have Tanner McKee on 4th and 1 and I know he's not running to pick up the first down, what are you trying to do? Versus if you have a running back in the backfield, you got the defensive lineman. All right, we got to watch here. We got to look for this. The corners might have to bite in. They didn't have to do that. That's all I'm saying. I don't think it was the good call in that moment with the style of offense.
I don't know. When they run the interception that loses the game in Los Angeles, you got a quarterback who's given 3 options and it has a negative outcome and it becomes a bad play call. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You can't win for losing in this. You can't win if you get a bad outcome and you're an offensive coordinator and they're big boys. They can handle it. The average person, it's a bad call. It's always a bad call. It's never the player. It's never nothing. In situations where it's obvious, and I don't even remember the play call because, to be honest, I didn't go back and watch that game because it was too meaningless to me. So I'll go back to the Chargers game where you're giving the quarterback literally 3 options on one particular play, and he made the wrong decision. He made 2 wrong decisions, took the worst possible option, and it didn't work out. Bad outcome, bad play call, bad. I'm saying you can't win. Look, you said, I just don't think, and it's fine. I'm not saying you can't have your opinion. And you said, this is what they're trying to do. I guarantee, you use the word guarantee. I can't guarantee. I've been watching this game for a long time. There's not a lot of things I can guarantee until after I talk.
I can't guarantee either. Nobody can. What are the probabilities, though? I mean,
well, and that's what you're doing as a play caller. You're playing probabilities. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, and if you're on the defensive line, you're playing probabilities. Tanner McKee ain't running this ball on 4th and 1.
Tanner McKee's not running the ball. If you want, a lot of people want Tanner McKee to run. The running game, the quarterback running game is not relevant with Tanner McKee. I mean, we can all agree with that. We should be all. So take him off the field then. I don't know what to tell you. Put Sam Howell in there.
Or just don't go empty set, but whatever, empty backfield, whatever. All right, John, your final thought. I know sorry, everybody on the super chat. I can't get to him now.
What I'm trying to say is you don't take the quarterback off the field because an empty set is not about running the football at the quarterback position. That's all I'm trying to say.
All right, that's fine. John, your final thoughts today. Sorry on the super chats, everybody. I can't get to them. I had to argue with John myself. So I'll read all your super chats after he leaves. John, your final thought today, and then what's the Eagles' agenda today?
It is coordinator day, so I got to get I got to get down there to talk to the best defensive mind in football and the worst offensive mind in football.
Maybe,
have it.
John. All right, John. Good show, man. I'll talk to
All
you.
right, see you.
All right, later, dude. There's Johnny back. John McMullen. A lot of debates today. A lot of good conversation today. All right. Sorry to the super chatters. I had to debate John, and it ultimately resulted in me not being able to read all your supers. I'll read them all now, but I couldn't read them all to John. Sorry to everybody that wanted them to be read to John. All right. But that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. I don't know. I think we're debating two different things, but that's all right. Here's Pumper. Excluding the phonies who read from the book of Hurts, how do we beat the 49ers with all the evidence presented this year? What miracle must happen? I don't think a miracle needs to happen. I think the offense needs to execute, and I think the defense needs to execute. If they do those things, I think the answer is clear. The Eagles win the football game. Defense has been giving up 14.5 points a game since week 10. They've been exceptional. If they can play like that in this game, get Brock Purdy off his spot, maybe create a takeaway or two, I think the defense did their job. If the offense can move the ball down the field and put, I don't know, 20 to 24 points on the board, I think it's an easy slam dunk Eagles win. That's what needs to happen. If you think that's a miracle, then by all means. Here's tea time. Yes, good players can bail coaches out and win games, but bad coaching can lose games. I think I read that to John. That was a good one, tea time. I happen to agree with you. Here's Shooter McGavin. Vote May, John. Do the right thing. You know, Shooter, I've been on Stafford for a little bit. I think May is right there, dude. I mean, you look at Stafford's not the toughest part that you're going to have, Shooter McGavin, for May, because I know you're a Patriots fan, is the statistics that Stafford put up. I know not everybody likes statistics, but at the end of the day, these awards, they're very stat driven. And I think Matthew Stafford has 46 what's he got? He's got 46 touchdowns to 8 picks. 46. 4,700 yards and a 109 rating. Mays is good too. Mays, I think, is like 4,300, 31 touchdowns and 8 picks and 113 rating. So they're close, but the pedigree of Stafford and the 15 extra tutties, you know, I don't know. I get it. Shooter, if you look at the context, I don't think you're wrong. I think May has been right there, neck and neck, when it comes to true MVPs of the league this year. I really do. I like May a lot, dude. I really do. Shooter, I've told you, I think he could be. I don't weigh him that heavy, Shooter. I'm explaining to you how the process goes. At least in my opinion. I think the process is a lot more slanted to stats, you know. But hey, maybe May will get it. Maybe May will get it. We'll see what happens. Here's Pump. I got that one. Suplex. What's up, Suplex? John, any chance your boy JG takes over for Eberflus and or Jim Schwartz for head coach in Cleveland? Schwartz was endorsed by Haslam. Maybe. I could see JG to Dallas. Doesn't that sound like the perfect thing that Jerry Jones would want to do? Hire Jonathan Gannon. All right. Doesn't that sound like the perfect thing to do? I don't know. Not perfect thing, but like I could see Cal Dallas doing that. Just because why not? You know, he knows Philly fans hate him. And the other thing is like JG does run the Fangio system. You know, so maybe Jerry looks at it and is like, let's play more of that Eagles defense. Not going to be as good, but maybe that's the idea. You know, they're kind of built more similar now too. They got good interior guys on the defensive line. They don't have great edge rushers, you know, but they just got rid of Trayvon Diggs. Maybe they're trying to go to a more zone-based system. I don't know. Let's see what they try and do. It's going to be interesting to see. But Suplex, I think you're right. I think JJ could be a candidate. I don't think Jonathan Gannon will get another head coaching job, but we'll see. I'll tell you what, 6 openings, guys. Who the hell is a good candidate for a head coach this year? I mean, sir, does anybody have any? Who were the good candidates for a head coach? You got 6 openings. You got the Falcons, you got the Bears, you got the Browns, you got the Giants, you have the Raiders, the Titans, and who am I missing? I'm missing one other. I don't know who I'm missing, but Cardinals. They canned him yesterday, Vitality. So I don't know who are the candidates. Does anybody have any good candidates? I guess Belichick. Flores, I think, is a good candidate. The thing with Flores, guys, I'm a Flores guy. I like Brian Flores. I liked him in Miami. I had no problem with him criticizing Tua. Not at all. The thing with Flores is, typically, guys, when you sue the league, the league might not let you get that type of promotion. Whether fair or not is not the point. He is suing the league in a big lawsuit. So I don't know. Will that stop him? Maybe. Kevin Patullo, amazing candidate. Maybe. John Gruden, I guess. Could be. Here's Joshua. What's up, Joshua? After the Bills, Nick said he has to help get plays they want called. Even KP's friend admits he struggled at times. It explains bad runs and pass game rhythm. Yeah, I wish I read that one to Joshua. I wish I read that one to John. I mean, I don't know. I know me and John were arguing 2 different things, but sometimes I struggle with why does it feel like some of the most simple shit John has to disagree with me on? It's like, dude, it's 4th and 1. Don't you want to create the illusion to the defense? Okay, we could run here. We could do a play action here. We could pass here. We could do anything. Instead, you go empty set, no play action, no potential for the run game. Why was that so hard? I don't know. I don't like to. I'm not trying to criticize John when he's not here to defend himself, but I don't know. I struggle with shit like that. What the fuck? Am I crazy? Empty set with a 6'6" quarterback who can't fucking move. You need 1 yard. Give me the opportunity to do anything. And then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So what? So be it. Here's Seth. What's up, Seth? I wonder if the Cowboys try to bring JG on board for a DC job. Would make sense for Giants if they hired KP and brought JG there with them. Oh, go for it, please. Head coach Kevin Patullo, defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. The New York Giants will suck. Here's Sammy Livingston. What's up, Sammy? Appreciate everybody today. Players first and then coaches, right? These players have been covering for bad situational play call for the past 2 years. Well, the one area that John is right is this, guys. This is the one area John's right. And maybe you blame the running game on Patullo. Maybe you do. I don't, but I think he maybe has a hand in it. Last year, we didn't really do all these things great in the passing. I mean, do you guys remember last year before we went and won the Super Bowl? AJ was reading on the sidelines. We were critical of Kellen Moore. If you don't recall, we were. If they run the ball better this year, are people as critical of Kevin Patullo? Obviously not. But that does seem to be the biggest difference. It's not like we went from a grade A passing game last year and it's fallen off a cliff. That hasn't happened. The running game has fallen off a cliff. Now, if you blame that on Patullo, but maybe. I don't think it's all Patullo. I do agree, Sammy, that players have been making plays happen, a lot of times. Dawood says Philly media sucks. They ask soft questions. Well, Dawood, can't you kind of tell why? None of them think Patullo is a problem. That's why. Now, I'm not of the belief that Kevin Patullo is the only problem on the team. I don't think like that. I think he's a problem. I don't think he's a given advantage. I don't think he's learned on the job. I don't think he has a great feel for this job. I mean, it's the first time he's ever been a play caller. Objectively, forget what results are. Objectively, you look back and say, all right, first year doing something. How did he do? I don't really see where he added an advantage. Now, maybe John's right. It's all Nick Sirianni's offense, and he's not allowed to run anything different. But I don't know. It's tough to gauge at this point. Here's Kyle. Zander, I still think there's going to be a head coach we don't expect. It happens every year. Oh, for sure. I mean, Kyle, I just said it. Who the hell are the candidates? Who the hell are the candidates? You know? So there's definitely going to be an unexpected one. Here's Pump. What up, Pump? Zander, can we dedicate a show specifically on Jalen Alexander Hurts' historic season, especially how he achieved an unprecedented feat against the Chargers? Pump, we have a lot of shows dedicated to Jalen Hurts. I don't think we need more of them. All right? I don't think we need more of them. But yeah, I mean, Hurts had that bad stretch of games that I think is obviously very fair to talk about. I know some of you don't like to talk about that. He did have that bad stretch of game. He did have that bad stretch. But outside of that, I mean, he was okay. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over a lot. You know, he did have more passing touchdowns this year than any other year. You know, I thought he's moved. I thought, what did he finish up with stat-wise? Let me look at that. Not that stats are everything, but just to put some context on it. Jalen finished up with 3,224 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 6 picks with a 98 rating. Not bad at all. I mean, that's that. I'm considering 4 of those picks were in one game. You know, that's not bad. Bad stretch. He had like 2 good games. Well, no, he was inconsistent in some games, but you know, it's tough to. Do you put all that on a quarterback? I don't know. I mean, you know, I think the quarterback has to take some blame for a lot of it, but he wasn't. You're right, he wasn't great in a lot of games this year, but he wasn't bad outside of that stretch he had. Bad is different than not good. Like having a bad game means, to me as a quarterback, means you contributed to your team losing a football game. Means you didn't do your job well in that game. Outside of that stretch he had, where I do think he had the bad stretch, I think it was like 4 games or 5 games or somewhere in there. I don't know if I would say bad. I don't know. Pump, I know I'm fighting an uphill battle with you. He had 25 tutties. Yep. 25 passing touchdowns. No, 25. It's his most ever in a season. So take it that way you will. Jerry says he just doesn't play 60 minutes. Well, I agree, Jerry. That to me is a good criticism. You know, and I don't know, is that all on Hurts? Is that on partly the way they play? Is that on Nick Sirianni going risk averse? They get a lead and don't want to do anything. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's all on Hurts, but that is fair. You know, you have halves of football where you're amazing, you know, and then you have halves where you're not. Like even last week, Bills, phenomenal in the first half. I thought Jalen played one of his best halves in the year. I mean, he had a couple throws in that first half that I'm like, damn, that was a good-ass throw, man. You know, not many people are making that throw. But and then the second half, no completions. It's like, what the fuck? Underdog says, Hurts had 9 games where he couldn't post 200 pussy-ass yards. Well, Underdog, here's the other thing. I mean, and look, I know you're obviously, you feel about Jalen how you do, which is fine. You're allowed to have your opinion. I don't think they're asking him to do that a lot, you know? Like, they're not asking him to go out there and get those yards. Now, whatever, you could say there's a reason for that. That's fine, too. But I told you, Z, Jalen plays a different kind of bad. It isn't in your face as 4 inches a game, and it makes it impossible to bench him. But he holds back the offense along with the philosophy. Yeah, I think that's all right to say. I mean, I don't know about holding back. I think they play a certain style, but I don't know. I really don't want to get in. It's not all about Jalen Hurts right now. I'm not trying to have a fucking long-winded discussion about Jalen Hurts right now. All right. I mean, look, here's what I think. Jalen Hurts is a fucking gamer. He's a gamer. And the dude is unflappable in big moments. And it's probably the single thing I respect the most about Jalen Hurts, not only as a player, but as a man. Big pressure, lights are bright. That's when I think he has shown his best moment. I mean, you could literally argue his two best games of his career are the two Super Bowl games. That's pretty impressive. Now, I don't forget the playoff games where he didn't play so good last year. Rams and Packers wasn't his best games. So, but he's a gamer, man, and I think he's going to have a big playoff run here. I'm hopeful he's got a big playoff run. And even just some self-reflection. At the end of the year, I'm like sitting there and I'm like, all right, is Hurts the perfect quarterback? No, nobody's the perfect quarterback. 5 straight playoff appearances, 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, performed great in multiple Super Bowls. I mean, 2 NFC championships. I mean, come on, guys, we got to give him a little credit. No, underdog, pumper. Don't you think? All right, maybe Jalen Hurts glaze him too much. But don't you think on the other side, like, all right, maybe we're a little too critical of him at times too. I'm not a damn NFL quarterback or a damn NFL coach. I'm just a guy who talks on fucking YouTube, all right? I don't profess to know more than Patullo, more than Nick, more than Jalen, more than any of these guys. I just judge what I see. Sometimes against my will. Sometimes I don't like that I got to give an opinion. I was never the most opinionated sports watcher in the past, but it's what I do now. Zander, what is the number one Jalen Hurts defense mechanism when you are mean to their Messiah? Change the subject. Loser beta males. Well, whatever, pump. The team did that. It's a team. It is a team game, but Hurts is a big part of that. Trey, I mean, come on, man. Who's got more impact on a football game than any other position? For every team in the league. Yes, it's a team game. It is. But if you have this level of winning with him as your quarterback, he's not as bad as you think. He's not as bad as you think. Catch says, I'm more concerned with the O-line and KP than Hurts. Catch, I agree. In that order, too. In that order. O-line, Kevin Patullo. Morty says, everyone talking about all these other guys, ringless guys. All right, well, Morty, I just gave Hurts credit. This is where I push back on this argument because I'm not a fan of this argument either. Morty, is Jalen Hurts better than Dan Marino? Dan Marino doesn't have a ring. Is he? Is he better than Dan Marino? Like that. To me, that's not a great argument. I think Hurts, there's a lot of great arguments for Hurts. I do. I don't think him being, the one with the ring is the best argument over his peers. That I don't think that's a good argument. That's what I'm saying. That's my point, Island. That's my legitimate point. Is that's not the perfect indication. It is a credit, though. It is a credit. Xander, that ring was achieved in the backs of Saquon and the deep. Well, the defense was incredible in the Super Bowl. There's no doubt about that. I've often said that. I think that Super Bowl will be looked back on as the Vic Fangio Super Bowl or the defensive Super Bowl. But that doesn't mean Hurts didn't make plays in that game. I mean, Hurts made plays in that game. Now, he had a turnover. He had the big interception. But he made plays in that game, dude. He made big throws. He was largely on target. I mean, he made a big throw to Devontae Smith to ice the game. I mean, come on. I disagree with the notion of this. All the way to the extreme, it's all Jalen why we won. And all the way to the other side, Jalen had nothing to do with the Super Bowl. The defense was incredible. Probably the biggest reason for the Super Bowl win. Jalen was awesome in that game. Made big throws consistently. Moved the ball, got points on the board. I mean, even the first drive, he had a big throw to Jahan Dotson down the sideline. It was a perfect throw. Good throw. So, I think people are a little bit lost on this Jalen Hurts shit. It's like, I don't think it's so black. Like, half of the people are like, Jalen Hurts sucks. Half the people are like, Jalen Hurts is the greatest quarterback in the history of the planet. I think both of you are wrong. But Hurts had 3 huge runs. That's true. And he had some big runs. I criticize him often, Slager, for the Rams playoff game because I don't think he was great in that game. That run, though, he had in the beginning of that game, that was a big run, man. Not many quarterbacks are going to go 50 yards to the house. So, whatever. I hear you. I understand. There's a lot of different opinions. And I think all of you are entitled to have your opinions. I'm not one that polices football opinions. If you don't agree with me about football, so be it. I mean, whatever. I don't think that makes you a bad person or a dumbass. That just means we disagree on football. Morty says, I was just saying that everyone's talking about Purdy, Caleb. Well, this I agree with. I mean, Hurts has the pedigree and the experience. There's no doubt. And experience matters experience to me means something in these moments. It does. Hurts has a lot of experience in these big moments. There's no doubt. Even dating back to college. Jalen been around for 5 years, and he's working on Super Bowl visit number 3. Well, right, it's a little we got a wild. We didn't even get through the wild card yet, Reyes. Let's pump the brakes. But I agree, he's got a good chance to go this year if he can play well in the postseason. Man, this will always be a polarizing discussion. It always will be. It always will be. It always will be. Jalen Hurts will always be a polarizing discussion. It is what it is. All right? It is what it is. Some Black, I agree. That brotherly push really killed our line and run game. I agree, man. All right? That's what Jerry agreed. That's big missing, man, this year. No doubt. Here's Sam Shepard. Sam, see, this is a good. I like this here. This is a valuable take. He says, Zander, Jalen was a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro player, and has NFC championships, a Super Bowl chip, and an MVP. I think he's overglazed, but I also think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I think that's fair. Yo, Messiah, I gave you a shout. Yo, did you meet my dad at the King of Prussia Mall? My pop was so pumped. He called me right when he left. He's like, this dude said he loves you on the channel. He said your name. He said, I think it's Messiah or something. I didn't know you from the chat, but you were working security. I don't want to give too much info about you. Is that right? That's dope, dude. I gave you a shout out on Cilio's show the other day. I think it happened, I don't know, right after the New Year. I gave you a shout out on Cilio's show, I think on Thursday or Friday, brother. That's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. I'm happy to see you in here, bro. Appreciate your support, man. Appreciate your support. That's pretty cool. So for those who didn't know the story, my pop was in King of Prussia Mall returning a Christmas gift, I think for one of my sisters or something. And Messiah noticed the JAKIB polo, and they were chatting it up. That's pretty dope. Here's Pump. Jalen Hurts needs to prove it. Gets no credence for last year. That was a Mickey run thanks to the D. When he fails, I'll be here to collect tears. All right, Pump. We'll see. All right. We'll see. Here's tea time. Z, I just don't feel confident in us if we go up at half. I feel like we would allow them to get back in the game with the don't take risk mindset. Well, T, it's honestly, I know you're right, but the defense has been able to hold, dude. If they get a lead in this game, I'm going to feel pretty good. I think this defense is going to make things really hard for that 49er offense. I think 49ers are better than some people think, but I also think that they're the type of offense that Vic can really mess up, can really throw a wrench into, if you will. I really do. So, T-Time, appreciate it, man. The 40 Weiner D is overhyped right now, and their O is underrated. The 40 Weiner D is not overhyped. I think everybody thinks they suck. Their defense is not very good. He was at sacks. There you go, Messiah. Good stuff, bro. Appreciate you being here, man. And appreciate you giving a shout and chatting it up. All right. Thanks for your support. That's good shit, man. That's cool. I hope to meet more of you guys in person. 2026, everybody. Get ready. All right, get ready for this. 2026 is going to be a year of great change. Great change. Okay? It'll be a year of great change. I think it'll be positive for some and it won't be positive for others. That's the reality. But it's inevitable. It's inevitable at this point. So, if you go back to the tape, you'd be surprised how many times you said Jalen won that game for them. You're correct. Dude's a gamer. He's absolutely a gamer. All right? He's absolutely a gamer. Z, you doing any more? I'm definitely going to do some giveaways, Eduardo, in the postseason, hopefully. Honestly, brother, Eduardo, I'm tight right now, man. I'm tight business-wise. So I haven't had a lot of loose change to pick up more jerseys and shit. So I don't have a whole lot right now to give away. I do have a couple more jerseys I can give away. But, yeah, that's just the truth. I mean, I don't have a – that's where I'm at. So, but I do want to do more, Eduardo, for sure. I definitely want to do more. I know I owe you a jersey. So, but all right, guys, I appreciate all you guys. I thought it was a good show today. I know me and John went back and forth several times on Patullo and shit, but I don't know. I mean, I understand where John's coming from. I can't entirely agree that, like, it just feels to me like he doesn't think Patullo has anything to do with the offense not performing that good this year. And that I struggle with that. That's not to say I think it's all him. I don't think it's all him. But I don't think it's none him. I don't think it's 5% him. I mean, he's the offensive coordinator of the football team. Is there any other team where the offensive coordinator doesn't matter at all? I mean, no. I mean, Sam Darnold's having another good year. People say, hey, good year for Clint Kubiak, right? I mean, I don't know. So. But all right, I appreciate all you guys for being here. All right. Brace for impact. It's playoff season and change is coming. Change is coming. Hopefully it's good change. I'll work to make sure it is. Love all you guys. Appreciate each and every one of you for being here. As always, supporting the show, liking the show, commenting on the show. It's been good. So thank you all very much. It is much appreciated. And I will see you guys. What's going on with this damn? There we go. All right, guys. I'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.